at his premises and reported in various mosques or institutions. We've also taken action and closed down the prayer center going forward. So we are urging and giving information to the public that prayer center has been closed down, and whoever was in there has been cleared out, is being brought to Mombasa, and I will request that as time goes by, we'll be giving you updates as we progress with investigations.
His arrest comes amid questions of what relationship exists between him and Mackenzie, who is the leader of the deadly cult in Shakahola. This as the postmortem exercise on more than 100 bodies exhumed at Shakahola Forest is expected to take place today. The exercise will be led by government pathologist Johnson Oduor to determine the cause of death for the victims. Coast Red Cross manager Hassan Musa on his part says that 360 people have been reported missing, with 198 of them being children below the age of 18. Meanwhile, Second Lady Pastor Dorcas Kashagwa has condemned the actions of controversial Pastor Paul Mackenzie. Dorcas says he is a criminal who must be prosecuted.
Hii inchi inaendeleshwa na katiba na sheria. Na mambo ya kuabudu, sisi tuko huru kuabudu kulingana na vile sisi Biblia inatuambia. Na kwa hivyo nilikuwa nataka kusema hivyo kwa sababu ikiwa mambo ya Mkristo moja akipatikana kwa shida, mwili wote wa Kristo unajumulishwa na kuambiwa kila mtu ako na shida au yeye ni muharifu. Sisi hakuna kitu cha mtu tumeharibu.
Now, the government says laws will be effected in the war against alcoholism and drugs and substance abuse will be released by June. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the government has also planned a consultative meeting with counties to deliberate on laws that need to be formulated to fight the vice.
From DCI, the National Police Service, from the DPP, from the Attorney General, to help our MCAs to come up with uniform law across the 5 counties. And the assemblies agreed. Immediately the laws have been drafted. After public participation, they will give the laws priority, and we gave ourselves a target that the laws must be in place before the 30th of June. So we'll have laws.
DPP Nurin Haji on his part has called on county commissioners to work with his office in order to come up with solid cases.
We will try and do joint training together. In addition, I think it is high time that we involve each other even before you do the arrests. We are here, the ODPP are your advisors when it comes to criminal matters, and say, Bwana County Commissioner and County Commander, we can go this way. If we are targeting this place, let us make sure we have 1, 2 or 3.
Nairobi Azimio MCAs have called on their supporters to join them at the JKIA today in welcoming their leader, Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Majority leader Peter Imwatok also urged the police to cease using force and tear gas in order to avert turning their peaceful procession into chaos. Azimio had announced that they'll have a mega rally in Kibra following the return of Raila from Dubai. And the Kenya Union Party, KUP, led by former West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapu, has formally signed a post-election agreement with the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. The announcement was made by United Democratic Alliance Party Secretary General Cleophas Malala during a press briefing yesterday. KUP is now expected to align with Kenya Kwanza on all key issues according to the officials, including the bipartisan talks. Speaking during the briefing, Malala stated that the bipartisan talks have fostered an environment of mutual understanding and that the opposition Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party should approach the talks with open arms and honesty. And more than 100 Kenyans left Khartoum for the South Sudan border to come home following the ongoing military conflict in the country. The Kenyans left Khartoum by bus and now been living in the embassy since Monday. This is Newswire. Dennis Asata. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. Amen. So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself. When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay you for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, you know, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss any morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Ndu, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again. Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2, 3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Good morning. Welcome to Friday. What does it look like on the streets? Not much happening around and about. It's definitely going to pick up as we get into Friday. We'll probably see a lot of outbound traffic today, but we'll be here for it to see what exactly is happening. On Jogoro this morning, it's inching closer and closer to bumper as you get towards Landis. Landis already looks pretty busy right about now, and that's heading into the city. At Kamkunji at the roundabout, we'll see some movement. Let's look at what's coming off the Thika Superhighway. Traffic is starting to build up as you get closer to Ngara, and it'll take you into the CBD. Not too much of a hiccup for now. We're looking at a little bit of traffic also coming out of Westlands, and then into the CBD off Mombasa Road today. Looks pretty good. Traffic is flowing smoothly. North Airport Road, let's take a look there real quick. We did see a lot of movement there yesterday. I'm not sure if that's going to continue, but it looks like it's building up as you get towards that outer ring junction. Let's keep an eye on things and see how Friday pans out. Help us out. Tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this Friday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only
Friday.
way.
Just like that, April is gone. That's it. Next, May. Next, December. It's cold, eh?
Even the seats are cold.
It's very cold in here. Hii maisha hatuwezi namna hii.
What did I do again, Abeg?
You got here first.
So I came, I found that winter had come. I did not know what to do.
Yeah, how did you bring it here?
It was not me. Oh. Do I look like I bring the cold or I bring the heat? Answer that very carefully.
How you doing, Ndu?
Fine, thank you.
You look fine.
I think. I try.
City?
Yes, Eric.
How are you?
I'm fine, Eric.
Very, very good.
Yeah, I'm fine. I feel fine, and I'm happy.
Very good.
Yes, despite all the sadness around us, I am happy.
Very good.
Eric,
It's a
my
good
man,
thing.
how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I am fine. I am very fine. I thank God. I know everybody who's listening. How are you? Are you fine? Let us know. It's good to know. Final Friday of April 2023. Moving on. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today, which is quite a bit. So Monday is another public holiday. This is another long weekend for some people. How to enjoy maisha bana?
This is an extra long weekend because if you have the demonstrations immediately after a long weekend, many people are still not going to go to work.
There are going to be demonstrations on Tuesday.
Yep.
See Monday, Tana?
No, Monday, out of respect for the workers.
And then Thursday.
So no, the Thursday is in abeyance, but the Tuesday, the Tuesday, I was listening to this chit chat that the Azimio Brigade had when they were standing shoulder to shoulder with their brothers over some matters at the headquarters. Was it in Kileleshwa or Lavington, some place or the other? And I heard one Mr. Wamalwa talk about the solidarity on Monday with the workers.
Okay.
And then the solidarity with the demonstrations on Tuesday.
It's really respectful, this protest.
Yes.
Takes a lot of things into consideration.
Yes, they've taken a lot of consideration.
Ramadan, Muslim
now
brothers
workers,
and sisters,
and then also and then of course Oparanya came in and also talked about how he had, sent the letter himself to the police and told them this is what we're going to do, blah blah blah, respectfully, peacefully. Yes.
That's all.
Holiday.
Hey, maisha. Anyway, ni sawa.
I only hope they understand what it is they're setting in motion. It is one thing.
Do they care?
To have a demonstration.
They may understand. Do they care?
Eric, that's the heart of the matter. They should. You know why they should? Most people go about, let me rephrase the statement. Most people who are in the political space go about making decisions and going about starting particular processes because they can see the benefit to themselves directly while calling the name of the wananchi. Now, when I ask, do they know what they're setting in motion, is precisely this thing that we keep asking, do they care? It looks like they don't. But you don't want that care getting at your footsteps because it's going to come to you. You think it won't, it will. So anyway, keep at it and let the chips fall where they may.
Indeed.
Okay. So, Monday being a public holiday, it's going to be Labor Day, and so we're going to have a workers' conversation today, creating a healthy and inclusive workforce and workplaces. Ernest Nadome is the General Secretary of the Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union. It's called KETAU, Kenya Electrical Trade and Allied Workers Union. KETAU. The people who work in all those places, Kenya Power, Kenyan, Ketraco, and elsewhere, and allied.
All the power people.
Higher. Those ones. He's the Secretary General in that union. And then at Cotu, the national umbrella body, he is the Assistant Secretary General.
Assistant?
Yes.
So we take it that there's a deputy.
There's a deputy that we hosted last week. Was it last week?
Yeah. Yes, we did.
It was
a week.
It was
the week after the one.
The week after the before one. The week after backwards.
Yes.
So, yes. So he'll be joining us at 7 a.m. for that conversation. And then at 8, let's talk about the Kenya Red Cross. You see all these things that we see, every time there's issues in the ground or on the ground, it's Red Cross has arrived. There are floods, Red Cross has arrived. Oh, the Shakahola and the Shakahola of Red Cross, the Shock and Horror, Red Cross arrives. Red Cross is the one that gives the government a container to place the body.
Yeah.
The government
makeshift morgue
has Land Cruisers. That's what they've been doing. Collect kwa mwili, weka back of Land Cruiser, police kalia hapo, peleka morgue. Red Cross has taken
over
an entire container there.
and they're assisting in this. There are a lot of things that the Kenya Red Cross is doing. How much are we prepared for disasters, though? That's a conversation we want to have with the communications manager of the Kenya Red Cross, Peter Abwao, who comes in at 8 a.m. Keep it here for
the hum.
That and more conversations coming up. The live stream, Edna, is it like that? It's doing like that? It's streaming. So because we are streaming everywhere this weekend, we want you to let us know where you're tuned in from. It is 6:15. Already I'm seeing YouTube. Kila mtu ameamka.
People at YouTube are already shouting.
Where. Hey, okay. Tell us about the weather.
This is 00 Direct, woman host, music by women and only women guests.
If COVID could mutate and evolve 6 times over the last 2 years, how many versions of yourself have emerged in the last 2 years?
Do not, and you don't have to give anything to get ahead. All you have to do is give out and show out your talent.
Catch 00 Direct every Saturday from 10 a.m. on Spice FM.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is one of the best ways to spend a Saturday.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 15, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly clear Nakuru at 15. It's 16 and clear in Nyeri, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 21 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 14. It's raining in Mombasa this morning, it's 25 degrees. We'll see highs of 27 through Friday, and it's also raining in Malindi at 26. We'll go to highs of 27. Kisumu, partly cloudy at 19, highs of 26, and highs of 25 in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 18. It's mostly clear in Kampala at 20, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 26 in a mostly cloudy Dar es Salaam at 25. 14 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 26. It's partly cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Looking out into Beijing, Friday afternoon is partly sunny, highs of 23 and lows of 11. It's a rainy morning in Paris at 15, highs of 20 coming in to lows of 10. Cloudy at 12 in London, highs of 18 and lows of 8, and Thursday night is mostly clear in New York at 11. We'll see highs of 13 and lows of 9.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Yeah, Papa Cotu is in Nakuru City. He says it's cold. I'm likely to believe you, but tuned to the situation, listening to the greatest trio, Asante Sana. Deep State is the one who has woken up this morning and he's doing this thing. He said he's in Dallas sticker. Ndu hates YouTube viewers. Why are you talking about hate so early in the morning? How did we know that they're YouTube viewers if I did not come here, Deep State? What's your real name? Tell us, who are you?
The Deep State.
The Deep State. We do not hate YouTube viewers, so just be happy where you are. Okay. Rose Grace is tuned in from Siaya. Good morning to you. Jenga is saying it's cold. You're coming from a job. You live in Europe. Okay. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy your weekend too. Rose Grace is saying she's fine. Great to hear you three. Great to hear. Deep State is really on my case this morning. Eric, Ambia Ndu, I watch ignoring Watu or YouTube. Ama will start Mandamano hapa. Okay. How many times shall we greet people?
Mbona sufuria? Bila sufuria hiyo sio maandamano.
Deep State, you'll be all right. Everything is just going to be fine. King BK says, good morning, tune in from No Man's Land. Where are these places? Lawrence Nane says he's tuned in this morning. Njane Nguten Mogeni. Tune. Oh. Okay, I see now what you're trying to say. Guten Morgen. Okay, Sabit Yusuf is tuned in from Dubai. Already summer in Achungulia. Yeah, when we see the summer moto ni moto, going to get to temperature
summer in Achungulia, Dubai.
Degrees. My goodness.
They've been on winter in Dubai.
Something like that. It's been winter, but it's been like 30 degrees. Hi. Dave Lubale says, good morning, tuned in. And he says, Kwani munaficha Edna kama dola? Hello, Edna. Are you hiding? Good morning, Ndu Eric and CT. I'm your biggest fan. Kiboy Eva, good morning to you. CBD, Mapema. Louis and Jira is tuned in this morning. Good to see you guys. Our YouTube people, thank you for joining us this morning. All right. Other folks who are in this morning, happy Labor Day in advance, Wiseman says. Keep on keeping on. We shall do it. Professor Ondicho is tuning in this morning. Hamjambo, nawakilisha Mombasa na kunanyesha sana. We see that. Jane Duta, your daughter is Erin, and she's turning 7 today. And you listen to us every morning with her. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Erin. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Erin. Happy 7th. 7 is the number of perfection. You're well on your way, my dear. Kip Kirui, Isaac, good morning to you. Dominic Nyabuto, good morning. Morris Werengai Nyongesa is tuned in from Muchanja Kabras. Kenyatta University is where Overseer Fred Wanjoy is. Robert Bogo is tuned in. Andrew Mark, Shalom Mukhlama, Rama. Hey, everybody's online this morning. People have woken up and done us a solid. Simala Sianje is tuned in. Gentrix is also tuned in. Kiamtogo, Odero Jr. Hiyo smile nia Edna na Ndu. Wengine waende smile yao mahali wanataka.
Tutaendea kwa Edna.
Utaenda kwa Edna kupata your smile. Hey, I can see you guys, man. Kaka, Sige, Charlotte, Tony, Rono, John Wakiriani, Morris Warengai Nyongesa. Everybody tuned in this morning. Karibuni sana.
Karibu kila mtu, City. Fanya like that.
Okay.
There's something that you promised to tell us today. Do you remember what it was?
It was all the foods they eat, with their president, their vice president, and their mineral
why
resources.
It was called Ivory.
And why it's called Ivory Coast.
Yes.
Okay, I will. I did
say. In 6 months' time. Ndio imefika.
6 months' time yako.
Zimefika.
Kenya ina mobile phone bado lakini.
Ndio hiyo.
I did say
in 6 months' time, I'll tell you.
I will tell you. Did I not?
Yes, you did.
And which means today is the?
No, you said tomorrow.
Tomorrow was yesterday.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast.
You see, now you're doing the proverb properly. Not those things you were doing yesterday.
The Republic was established in 1958. However, they got the independence in 1960. You know, in this country, we celebrate Jamhuri Day and Madaraka Day. So they also
for them same.
Same.
Okay.
It's a study on, among many things, but of the things that have arrested my attention is the breakdown of the colonial system and how the colonial system, upon its collapse, manifested the disparity it had created amongst the people of this particular country. Now, it's an indictment on the colonial system and what it did to other parts of this particular continent. The people who escaped it or the people who were just brushed by it were probably protectorates, probably people whose relationship with the colonial masters was, should we say, casuary. It was not an entrenched one like the French had in Côte d'Ivoire. But in the course of the day, you will get the details of what I said. The 2 civil wars didn't help. No, it didn't help because it tore the country asunder. Remember, this is a country that was referred to as the Pearl. Pearl. And all that changed. So now we do not know what we can refer to it as except the country of Ivory Coast. Our final proverb for the day.
So why is it called Ivory?
I said I will tell you the course of the day. Today is the first hour. I'm going to be telling you the proverb 2 more times.
3 more times.
It's coming in doses. It's coming immunization.
Yes, I am following instructions. It's the 2 of you who told me I must follow instructions.
Sawa.
See you in sawa?
You in sawa, sawa kabisa.
All right. He who talks incessantly talks nonsense.
Wow.
Haya,
Okay,
say no
sawa.
more. Tumekubali. Tumeacha basi.
No, it's actually the problem for the day.
The headlines?
Okay, another cleric probed over mass deaths. Hey, well, on the front page of the Standard, flamboyant televangelist Ezekiel arrested in new mass killings probe. As the state expands the scope of investigations in Shakahola, death toll rose by 12 to 110, with children bearing the brunt of the madness. It's covered on 2, 3, 4, 5 in the Standard. And Deputy President's wife, Dorcas Rigave, says if Paul Mackenzie is a criminal, he should be treated as an individual. Even his family should not be part of his crime. Paul Mackenzie is not the church. In fact, he has said he's not a pastor, but he's Mr. Paul. Okay, so we'll look into the details of that and other things that we're making. The state goes after Uhuru's NCBA bank tax waiver. We saw that yesterday. Okay. Economy projected to grow by 6.1%. So, you know.
Which economy?
I'm going to assume that it's Kenya. So there's something to look for.
Grow in which direction?
One would hope, you know, upwards.
Okay.
So when do we start witnessing this growth?
I'll give you the details through the day.
If you're observant.
Yes, you'll hear it. The next headline is Kenya's 1 trillion shilling debt headache. So, you know, take it as you would. Growing economy, debt headache, you know, whatever you want to do that. On the front page of The Nation, Raila returns to Ruto checkmate. Okay. Opposition leader Raila Odinga flies back to the country today for a grand rally to address the political crisis that deepened after bipartisan talks stalled, even as President William Ruto swiftly executed a counter strategy to corner him. All right. It's also talking about the arrest of Pastor Ezekiel. 3.5 trillion shilling budget. It looks like households and tea farmers will reap big in this one. Well, according to this headline. Remember the Solai Dam disaster?
Yes.
Okay. Suspects have a case to answer, according to the courts. Families affected by the 2018 Solai Dam tragedy have won the first round of a vicious court battle in which 9 suspects, including the dam's owner, are in the dock on charges of causing deaths of 48 people.
Wow.
The court has blocked Treasury's 900 million tax demand in the NCBA row is on the back page. And now, medical interns. You guys thought it was just doctors and nurses. Then you thought it was clinical officers and lab technicians, medical staff, support staff. Now, even the medical interns have said, you know what? You don't pay us, even us now. Our tools will down them.
The interns now?
Yeah.
The interns play a critical role, my friend.
Those are the ones that run the show.
Exactly. So they've said, you guys think, also us, we're not doing it. Fanya vile unataka.
Haya, Business Daily. Regulator allowed to install mobile phone spying gadget.
Spying?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be spying. Regulator allowed to install mobile phone spying gadget. Now, this is a matter that had been there for a while. The Communications Authority wants to install a gadget that will be able to detect counterfeit mobile phones. Okay? Uko na simu yako hapa, unatumia. As long as you're connecting to a network, Communication Authority can detect your phone ni fake.
What does a fake phone look like?
Hiyo ni counterfeit. Hiyo ni counterfeit. Hiyo haijatoka kwa manufacturer. You know how you tell a counterfeit phone? There's something called the EMI. Yes, IMEI. So that's what they'll be detecting.
Alafu?
The IMEI. And then now they know. Switch it off immediately.
Oh, if it's counterfeit, they want you to turn it off.
Yeah.
Ah, voila. Okay.
Counterfeit. We are fighting counterfeits in this country.
Got it.
And how to do that is to detect. Now, they started that conversation and said, this is what we want to do. Safaricom said, no. This is a backroot way of you trying to start spying on people.
And mining data.
And mining data and knowing all these things. You know? When you come and do that, you will be getting access to more than what you're saying. You'll be getting access to mobile subscribers' transaction details. You'll be knowing their phone records, their locations, where they are, and so on and so forth. Now, this is Safaricom saying that. Safaricom has access to all those things that you're talking about.
Even them, they have it now.
Okay. They have access to your location at any time, your phone records, your phone contacts, your transactions, kila kitu. But now they're saying these are the guys, they want to get that access. So Safaricom blocked it. This matter has gone to the Court of Appeal. It has gone to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has said, us guys don't have jurisdiction on this particular matter, so you guys can go ahead. Right. This one, it doesn't come here. So now, this communication authority has been given the what? Basically, they have to go ahead, install the gadget. Now the fear is Big Brother going to be watching? Has Big Brother not been watching?
Big Brother has been watching. Big Brother has just decided, let's get legal on this matter, so that now we can watch with, should we say, greater impunity?
Yeah.
Yes.
The question, though, I keep asking myself is, all right, so the telcos, why would they be fighting any bid to remove counterfeits from the market?
Because I think the telcos know it starts with that. And then they'll graduate it to something else. Because
so we'll also know when you come and report at it, our revenues this year were excellent. We can see how many calls are made on your network.
Yes, because essentially it's opening, it's the door that is being opened that is being protested. Because then the control will not be on this issue that they're talking about. It'll be on your privacy.
Yeah.
Safaricom does not care about my privacy. I don't believe it.
No.
Your
privacy is tied in with their privacy.
That's what they should say.
Yes.
It is on their privacy.
Yes.
My privacy. Safaricom is giving all these details to who? Left, right, and center.
Well, should we say that Safaricom is complaining because they're getting competition?
And Airtel and Telco.
The government is getting into their business.
The government is snooping too close.
Yes, getting into
it's not
their
about
business.
It's like politicians. This one is about Mwananchi. It's not about
Mwananchi. What?
Mwananchi gani hapa. Haya, anyway, listen. Inside Ruto's first 3.6 trillion shilling budget and taxation plans, is the other headline. This cabinet met yesterday and they approved plans to have 3.6 trillion shilling budget. And they also said that they'll raid taxpayers for an additional 392 billion shillings and cut fresh borrowing to fund this first budget. Till cut fresh borrowing. Yeah, right.
God. To cut fresh borrowing,
it means you're running a zero deficit budget.
I mean,
the budget already has a 600. They're claiming that it will be less. There's a 600. Anyway, let's discuss this after the Sawa. Hi, the Nairobian. I have the Nairobian today.
Yeah.
Big mess. Sex toys in school. There's an exclusive story here by the Nairobian which says health officials have treated 40 students with STIs after discovering a girl had smuggled a dildo into school and rented it out to others for a fee. Huh?
Yeah.
A girl had
That's a Shakahola.
Girl had gone to school with a sex toy. And she was running a business in there.
Yes, she was. Literally in there.
But there's also another story that I'll tell you from the Nairobian. There's a story. There's a 56-year-old man who's taken the AIC church to court. He's been battling his church, his former church, the AIC, for the last 28 years.
What did they do?
I'll tell you. City.
Yes.
To be about the star.
Right. Top right-hand corner.
In burnt orange.
Burnt orange.
Yes, it's burnt orange. Yes, it's burnt orange. There's a picture of a woeful-looking gentleman here.
A wolf?
Woeful. W-O-E. Not woeful.
I was going to say, wow.
Not wolf. Woe. Okay. Cult menace. Authorities saw danger, but their hands were tied. How the hands were tied, we will tell you about this later. It's a picture of this gentleman. It's a picture of this person called Mackenzie. The cult menace is the headline in Siasa. Then bang in the middle of the paper, step C. NCBA dashes to court seeking intervention. Talks with CS Ndumu. Headline. This one is in bold black, huge. Kenyatta Family Bank hit as KRA demands $1 billion. Treasury revokes tax waiver extended to NIC and NCBA banks in 2019 merger. The question here is this tax waiver. It was for what exactly?
It was for waiving tax.
Yes, the waiving we saw. And it's not waving as in, hello.
Wave to the people in the back. It's not that one.
No, it's not that one.
Tukutende na saa.
Sema amen. It's not that one. Then the picture of the day, Pastor Ezekiel arrested for suspected deaths. Okay, picture of this gentleman being led quietly to the police regional headquarters at the coast. He was arrested on Thursday. Then budget cuts, state cuts borrowing plans to raise 3.6 trillion. Okay,
they've cut what?
Borrowing. Let no one accuse this particular government of not
borrowing.
having, of not having a sense of humor.
It's 24 minutes to 7. Hey, you have a sense of humor. It's okay. That's the government. You take things seriously. Because you're taking things seriously, you have as little as 50,000 shillings and you'd like to not see that money lose its value. Take it to Kingdom Bank and it will be earning an interest. Up to 10% if you take it to Kingdom Bank. Go and tell them, nataka kusonga mbele na Kingdom Bank, and they'll tell you how you can open a fixed deposit account, a savings account, or a junior savings account. Put in your money, and you'll earn up to 10% interest. 0709 881300. That's the number to call.
Spice up your life.
On Jogoro this morning, that's where you find a little bit of traffic as you're trying to get into the city. There will be some outbound traffic as well. It is the weekend and it's a long one. So we're seeing folks who are traveling outside of the capital. We're looking at that on Waiyaki Way today, getting out past Westlands and an outbound fashion. It's not holding up anywhere, and it likely will not for some time, but we'll just keep an eye out and see. On the Thika Superhighway, though, coming into the city, we're looking at it connecting with Ngara and some traffic then as you approach the Globe Cinema overpass. And there's an underpass. They're over and under passes. Okay, on the Northern Bypass, looks pretty good. So there's an option for you to get in and out of the city without too much of an issue. Folks are trying to get into Ridgeways and then connect to the Thika Superhighway if you're going to go the other way and then come in through Githurai. Okay, so that's where some traffic is. North Airport Road has been doing this fever thing for the last few days. Not quite sure what's causing that, but we'll just keep an eye on things and see what may be the issue. We want to keep things moving this morning. Where are you stuck? Let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
People are arrested, others are, thrown into the whole thing. The deputy president's wife also then throwing her voice into all of this. Is there a connection? Was there a connection? What is going on? The stories then are straddling across most media this morning. Another cleric probed over mass deaths. We cannot not talk about this. 110 people then are those who have been exhumed. Their bodies have been exhumed.
And counting.
This is still a crime scene. No way have they gone and combed through 800 acres in the last 9 days. Children are said to bear the brunt of this madness, and that's where my focus is going to be this morning, because what exactly is going on? Hungry miners were the first to tell us they were not getting food. It's a story that's on page 2. Residents of Shakahola in Kilifi County have told of the first signs that showed followers of Pastor Paul Mackenzie were starving themselves. The villagers also described Mackenzie's arrival in the area and shared their impressions of him and his followers. In early 2020, Mackenzie approached local elders to purchase land for farming, they say. However, the residents were unaware that he would eventually become a malevolent figure, leading his followers on a deadly fasting marathon that claimed many lives, including those of children. Village elder Changwa Mangi, who lives near Mackenzie's 800-acre farm, confirmed that the controversial preacher had followed all necessary procedures to acquire the land. So he didn't get it fraudulently, according to them. He paid for it. Mangi said that everything seemed fine until early this year when he was approached by some children who had escaped from Mackenzie's land, claiming they had been denied food. Initially, I thought the children were in need of food since we had a drought, but nonetheless, I told the assistant chief, who passed the information to his seniors. But over time, I realized Mackenzie's people were no longer visiting Shakahola Trading Center, and border riders were barred from entering the farm. This is when we sought to discover what was really taking place. Mangi said that he mobilized a team of riders and visited the farm, where they were confronted by an armed group stationed at the main road to keep away intruders. He said their efforts failed, and they were attacked, and they had to run for their lives. They lost 2 motorbikes, which their assailants set on fire. And they said that they immediately reported to the assistant chief, who alerted the DCI. That is why the security operation is taking place. Mangi said that hundreds of people followed Mackenzie, but they denied knowing him when they were questioned. So because there was an initial investigation, according to what Mangi is saying, and that folks then who would come from the farm were asked, what's going on? And they would say, Mackenzie? We don't know any Mackenzie. So that's why they were wondering, why would they do this? And then the children who would come from there, the children belong to parents. And so they would say, how come these children are being denied food? What exactly is going on? But then now when the DCI wanted to do their, due diligence, these people denied. So now Mangi is saying there was no way for them to even follow up, because the people you are saying are in trouble are denying that they know this fella. So these guys had to say, okay, fine, well then, we'll move on. Until now, these stories of dead bodies started popping up. So they're saying that as all these things are unraveling, Mangi feels very, very bad because they didn't know that children were actually dying from starvation, and that if he had actually followed up a little bit more, then perhaps they would have unraveled what was really going on. That for him, those children, he saw and talked to these children himself.
They came and said,
we're being denied food. And he tried to do the due diligence, but when people deny, then okay, we really can't do anything about it. Then to hear that these children died and they are buried in this land, he says it breaks his heart, because then the horror of what is actually going on in there is much more. He says it's something he'll live with, guilt for the rest of his life, according to him. Security vehicles and those involved in the ongoing operation to rescue church followers and exhume the bodies of those who fasted to death use a narrow, unmarked road to reach the farm, because now it's been closed off by the government. Now, many people are now jumping out of the woodwork.
Stories are now emerging.
Exactly, about all of this.
It's a good thing, though. It's a good thing that stories come out. And even this one of the other new pastor, Ezekiel, who's been arrested now. Wacha tuone vile mambo yatakavyofanya nini? Yatakavyo unfold.
But this matter shouldn't stop there.
No, it shouldn't.
Because there is this thinking that mainstream churches are themselves beyond reproach, and that they themselves cannot be investigated. If there is going to be transparency, let it be for everybody. It can't be some fringe church that has now come into the light, because it's a church. You can say what you like, it is a church. And because deaths have occurred and we are still unearthing just the numbers, it doesn't mean they're the only ones. There are very many people who have all manner of cults that they're leading in this country. We just don't raise the alarm because no one has died, or large enough numbers haven't.
Know that exactly. People have died.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate. But the church has come under scrutiny, not cults. The church, the Christian church has come under scrutiny. And that scrutiny must continue, because if the church were not able to to introspect and to be able to ensure that this body of believers that they refer to as the church can actually be responsible for their brothers, then what they've done is they've opened the door for the government to come in and demand to place oversight over them, because this is their role. There is no saying this one. The moment you talk about a leader, it is not about the person. It's about everybody who belongs to that particular calling, that faith. Everybody. And nobody's going to be left out of this one here. Unfortunately. It can't be that you're pointing fingers towards a cult and saying other Christian leaders are exempt. They are not exempt. They are not exempt.
Hey.
My friend,
this one had small.
This one had. This one not had small. This one had. There was a story of a gentleman who appeared naked on social media, talking about money that he's owed by the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is, his name is Samuel Nyakado, aka Samtek. In Nyanza, he's a household name, built his profile as a successful businessman who invested heavily in driving schools. He was a brainchild of Samtech Driving School, operating in several towns in Western Kenya, and had also invested in transport services in the region. In the last election, he had vied to become an MCA for Migosi Ward. Yeah.
Was in Kisumu.
Yeah. Now, we also heard later that the man died. So the Nairobian has done a story of this gentleman and what happened to him. Now they've talked to his family, mostly his family. And his family talks about, he did some work with the government a couple of years back.
Which government?
The national and county governments.
Okay.
Yeah. He is among hundreds of contractors who are yet to receive a penny from county governments in Nyanza and the national government agencies after delivering goods and services. He was owed a lot of money by these governments. He owed a lot of money to many.
Whomever, yeah.
And now those creditors came for him. And they started now attaching his property. His vehicles were attached. His lorries were attached. And, and they were demanding money. A couple of weeks ago, he had just received some 200,000 shillings from a government agency. So it got into his account.
Finished.
He'd found the bank. The bank said, hata uko na pesa yetu. Fuliza the cash. Okay. So he didn't even get a penny of it. Now, he had gone for a funeral of a very close friend of his, a man he says helped him when he was growing up. He was buried in Tanzania. He came back from Tanzania, and that's when his daughter started seeing the video of him naked, speaking outside a government office in Nairobi. And they knew, oh my goodness, things are thick. A couple of weeks ago, he had gone to hospital because he had been feeling a lump on his chest for a while. And he was just ignoring it. I'm busy. It's just like a small lump. Then when he went to hospital and they did some tests, they found that he has stage 4 breast cancer. Stage 4. Said, now you've got to get into immediate treatment, but not much. It's just mostly here. It's palliative care. He says he couldn't even afford the treatment. So he was just a man piled up.
He'd been broken down.
Yeah. He died last week. He just suddenly fell ill. That's what the family says. And by the time he got to hospital, he was dead. Jesus. He has left all those things that we've talked about
intact.
He has left them with the family. All those things.
It's a story that isn't told. It's told in bits and pieces, so one doesn't see the import. If you were to tell the stories of people who have done business either with the national government or the county government, most of the county governments, and whose fate are similar to this gentleman's, there are many. There are very, 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 very many. Very many. People being reduced to nothing, meaning you start off as a person who has property doing business, you take your house and its value to the bank, that one goes. Something else. I mean, it's like doing business with county governments. Not all, many county governments have not been a blessing for most people. It has been the worst possible curse because even what you started off with is gone. So you end up with not zero, negative, because if you took money from the bank, yes, your house may be sold, but whatever is owed still gathers interest.
But it's a sad story. City tell us one. Then I'll finish with this one of this man who's been taking the Africa Inland Church to court.
That one is a very good story.
To the Court of Appeal.
That one is a very, very, very good story. Let me tell you, there's a story here. Past traumas expose you to cults, say experts, okay? Everyone, plus their auntie and a distant relative have entered the fray here because now mental health experts have come in. Social health experts.
Inside.
Everybody is now going to have their say on this one, and they should, because it's an opportunity to expose and to understand not what cults are, but why it is people get into cults. This is a story on page 8 of the Star. Past traumas expose you to cults experts. People suffer deep emptiness. If you have psychological emptiness, whatever that is, driven by a deprived I know that Ramjan who said,
No,
driven by a deprived childhood or unaddressed past emotional aches and hurting, you could be susceptible to a cult. Psychologists tell the star that everybody joining a cult has a need. Goodness gracious me, we all have needs, so we should all join cults. Or we all think of joining cults. Mostly motivated by psychosocial emptiness and looking for something to fill it, hence gets numb to human feeling and become hooked. I am going to stop that reading over there because they have merely scratched the surface. It is, well, it's a little more than what they have said, but it points in the right direction. For someone to abandon everything that they have known, to abandon the social norms, to abandon family, and to move towards this totally new direction, and to be oblivious to the harm that they're causing to themselves, it isn't just emptiness. It means you're talking about somebody who has had a mental shift and it's in the wrong direction. And if you're saying these are the causes of it, then, my friend, as a country, we have our work cut out for us. Yeah.
Sasa, before we go to the AIC one, story ya kukula fair, reverse it.
Fair kukula wewe. Okay, said reverse it.
There's a woman whose fare has been eaten by a man.
That's the reverse that he was talking about. So wait. This guy.
Anyway, a woman has lost a case against her lover to whom she allegedly loaned 150,000 shillings to help him support his business, which was on the verge of collapse. Dorothy Mwederwa had filed a case before a Nakuru Small Claims Court resident magistrate Edward Oboge, claiming to have loaned Japheth Omariba the money to allow him to restock his business. She said she had budgeted this money to pay her school fees. The woman said Omariba borrowed the money in 2021 to restock his business and pay in 6 months' rent arrears. Omariba on his part stated that the two were lovers and the woman had gifted him the money following the death of his wife. He stated that their friendship started after the death of his wife in 2019. In the course of their relationship, he alleged to have received 90,000 shillings, which the woman allegedly indicated to be a gift for him to support his children following the loss of his wife. He says, the money was given to me by Moederwa. It was in consideration of love and affection, not as a loan as she claimed. She was my lover. I received 100,000 shillings in form of a gift. I've also sent her money on several occasions. Sasa nini shida? He denied owning any business, saying the woman was enticing him to marry her, which he declined. With the money? Leading to the suit. He gifting. You remember yesterday's proverb?
I remember. Mutual.
Yes.
Cement.
Yes. The court, after considering the evidence, observed that the woman had indeed sent 139,775 to Omariba and that he had also sent the woman 93,300 mutual gifting. Justice Oboga noted that the woman had contradicted herself through a message produced in court where she was seeking 100,000 shillings from the man. And the woman had given an ultimatum to be the man's spouse or pay the money.
Wait. Sorry, that last thing you just said is what?
Wind that thing again.
The woman had given an ultimatum.
That?
Either you return my money or you marry me.
Sounds fair though.
I love it.
But it sounds fair.
I'm angry, but I can. If you're not returning the money, marry me.
You can pay in kind.
Who took the other to court?
The woman took the man to court.
Yeah. So was it the small claims court?
Yes. It was actually before the small claims court in Nakuru.
Oh Lord in heaven. As per the money is you can just marry me. We call it even.
Yeah. This is what the judge said. I have agreed with the respondent that this is a court of evidence which is expected to make judicial pronouncement based on evidence and the law, not sympathy. It does not matter that the respondent had admitted receiving 100,000 shillings. The question that needed to be addressed was whether he received 150,000 shillings as specifically pleaded on the case.
Is the judge a man?
The judge The judge is called just one Edward Oboge, the resident magistrate.
Do you know the thing? This thing is serious.
Yeah, it's serious. No, it's serious, but I am...
now you're looking at gender.
No, I am looking at gender.
Why?
Because much as our courts will claim that they pursue and they intend to pursue justice in its purest form. Nah.
Okay, her intent for giving this man this money was what? What the guy said. Wait, no. What did the guy say? That she used to give me this money.
The guy said,
we could be loving ourselves.
My wife died. I have children. Woman came and gave me some money. Hey,
Sindio.
Okay. Took the money.
Kind.
Over time, she's gifted him some money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says, yes, I have received some 100,000 shillings
Eric,
in the form of a gift.
You've missed a key ingredient in that story.
Which one?
The money, yes, but in between there was...
amorous connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
you don't add that, this story is not tied in properly.
They were visiting each other.
Yes.
Wanachiana fair.
Yes.
Uko wapi?
Usually.
Yes. Niko mbali kidogo.
Kuja.
Chukua nduthi. Uko wapi? Like that.
So what went wrong?
Tunaenda kotini sababu ulikataa kunioa.
The man has moved on.
Ala? He didn't know she was serious. He thought
she was
investing. Ya maziwa.
No.
Ha! From where? That's what I'm saying. By the time she was spending this money, she knew husband inside.
Let me tell you this other one. Okay, before we go to the top of the hour. There's a man called Josephat Kabutier. Josephat Kabutier was a member of the AIC church in Baringo County. Currently, he's 56 years old. This story begins in 1994. There's a woman called Mary Boymet. Mary Boymet was also a member of the church, AIC church. The two were basically church leaders, but in different churches. Okay? Now, in about 1994, Mary Boymet was to be married to a gentleman called Joseph Chiserek. But Mary sent someone to Mr. Josephat Kabutier, telling him, "Well, I'd like you to marry me." Niwachane na hii mtu.
The guy who was sent to find wife.
I want you to marry me. Wachane na hii mtu. This man is going to marry me, but if you marry me, I'll not marry this guy. Josephat Kabutier said, I am not doing that. Okay?
He said, I'm not.
Will you marry me?
No.
He said no. So
he said no.
Yeah.
He refused.
Now she went and told the man who was supposed to marry her, you know what?
This guy has refused.
This guy has been cateering me. This guy is making wrong moves on me.
He's making improper moves.
Blew this matter up. This guy is like a small church leader hapo kwa kijiji. Kila mtu kwa kijiji akajua Kabutier
wrong.
Nakatia nani? Boymet. Spoiled for him. It became a huge case. Later, the lady herself sent a letter to Boymet. Boymet sent a letter to Kabutier in 1995. Said, I have suffered enough, my brother. I have cried enough. In fact, it's unfortunate. It's me who wronged you. Brother, it was not intentional that I did these things. Please understand me. Please forgive me. She wrote to him, said, please, I know I wronged you. I spoiled your reputation in the society. Please forgive me. What did the guy do? The guy forgave her. Now he said, now, however, kila mtu kwa kijiji anajua hii story. Enda ambia kila mtu kwa kijiji.
Ilikuwa uongo.
Ilikuwa uongo. She was like, now, surely. Yeah. They went to church. The church said, actually, yeah, it's true. The man has forgiven him. But you just let this story pass. He said, no. Me, I want even the church to announce in every church. Let it be an announcement. Let it be known. Let me continue this story after the news. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
So, Interior CS Kithure Kindiki says televangelist Ezekiel, who is under custody, is facing charges of mass killing of his followers. Kindiki also says that over 100 people who were found at Odero's church during his arrest will record statements from the police. Coast Regional Commissioner Rodo Nyancha on a part said Ezekiel's arrest follows claims that several bodies had been collected at his church, which has been closed.
This morning we have arrested Pastor Ezekiel Ombok Odero of the New Prayer Center and Church at Mavueni in Kilifi County on allegations of the deaths that have been occurring at his premises and reported in various mosques or institutions. We've also taken action and closed down the prayer center going forward. So we are urging and giving information to the public that that prayer center has been closed down, and whoever was in there has been cleared out, is being brought to Mombasa, and I will request that as time goes by, we'll be giving you updates as we progress with investigations.
His arrest comes amid questions over what relationship exists between him and Mackenzie, who is the leader of the deadly cult in Shakahola. These, as 11 more bodies were exhumed at Shakahola forest, bringing the total number of corpses recovered from this scene to 109 so far. According to local authorities, no persons were rescued or arrested during the operation. Just like Wednesday, journalists were still barred from accessing the operation zone by authorities following orders by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, who visited the scene Tuesday. In a statement, the Media Council of Kenya noted that denying the media access to report on such a matter of public interest will open the floodgates of misinformation, rumors, and confusion. And the postmortem exercise on more than 100 bodies exhumed at Shakahola's forest is expected to take place today. This exercise will be led by government pathologist Johnson Odor to determine the cause of death for the victims. Coast Red Cross manager Hassan Musa on his part says that 360 people have been reported missing, with 198 of them being children below the age of 18. Meanwhile, Second Lady Pastor Dorcas Gachagua has condemned the actions of controversial Pastor Paul Mackenzie. Dorcas says he's a criminal who must be prosecuted.
Hii inchi inaendeleshwa na katiba na sheria. Na mambo ya kuabudu, sisi tuko huru kuabudu kulingana na vile sisi Biblia inatuambia. Na kwa hivyo nilikuwa nataka kusema hivyo kwa sababu ikiwa mambo ya Mkristo moja akipatikana kwa shida, mwili wote wa Kristo unajumulishwa na kuambiwa kila mtu ako na shida au yeye ni muharifu. Sisi hakuna kitu cha mtu tumeharibu.
The government says laws that will be effected in the war against alcoholism and drugs and substance abuse will be released by June. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the government has also planned a consultative meeting with counties to deliberate on laws that need to be formulated to fight the vice.
From DCI, the National Police Service, from the DPP, from the Attorney General, to help our MCAs to come up with uniform law across the 5 counties. And the assemblies agreed. Immediately the laws have been drafted. After public participation, they will give the laws priority, and we give ourselves a target that the laws must be in place before the 30th of June. So we'll have laws.
DPP Nurdin Haji and his party has called on county commissioners to work with his office in order to come up with solid cases.
We will try and do joint training together. In addition, I think it is high time that we involve each other even before you do the arrests. We are here, the ODPP are your advisors when it comes to criminal matters, and say, Bwana County Commissioner and County Commander, we can go this way. If we are targeting this place, let us make sure we have 1, 2, or 3.
Nairobi Azimio MCAs have called on their supporters to join them at JKIA today in welcoming their leader, Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Majority Leader Peter Imwatok also urged the police to cease using force and tear gas in order to avoid turning their peaceful procession into chaos. Azimio had announced that they'll have a mega rally in Kibra following the return of Raila from Dubai. And the Kenya Union Party, led by former West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapuo, has formally signed a post-election agreement with the Kenya Cons Alliance. The announcement was made by United Democratic Alliance Party Secretary General Cleophas Malala during a press briefing. KUP is now expected to align with Kenya Kwanza on all key issues, according to the officials, including the bipartisan talks. This is Newswire. Dennis Asata, good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Nothing too crazy at the moment. We're looking at a little bit of movement on the Thika Superhighway at that junction that comes off Outer Ring. Traffic's going to take you through then towards Muthaiga Square at the junction and then out towards the Pangani underpass. Further ahead, not too much to be worried about. Traffic is moving along slowly in some parts, but it's moving. That's the important thing. And we're not at bumper to bumper anywhere just yet. It's moving on the James Gishuru out towards Waiaki Way. There's outbound traffic on Waiaki Way this morning, folks leaving for the weekend. North Airport Road, we're looking at some of that, then spilling over towards the Eastern Bypass. But apart from that, it seems that slim pickings is where we are with traffic this morning. Keeping an eye on things. It's going to be a bit rainy later, that's for sure, getting into the weekend. So let's be careful what we do. Let us know where you are this morning. Let's talk on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of The Situation Room this morning. Asante sana for tuning in. It's the last Friday of April. Just like that, we are on to May. And quarter two is getting into the second month.
Cutie.
Just like that, okay? Thank you very much for tuning in on KTN Home as well. You'll be with us until 9 a.m. But the conversations happen every weekday morning on Spice FM from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Also live streaming on YouTube and Facebook on Spice FM. That's a channel and a page name. Yeah. Have you called Kingdom Bank or have you walked into Kingdom Bank today or yesterday? Well, today not, okay. Yesterday, did you walk into Kingdom Bank or have you called them? Please do, because they're saying if you've got some money and you'd like to not see it devalue, at least appreciate in value, take it to them. They'll show you how to open a fixed deposit account, a savings account or a junior savings account, and you can earn up to 10% interest. Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank. Walk into their branches today or call them on 0709 881300. That's 0709 881300. You can also go to Vipingo and do what?
You can actually look at these amazing properties that are so close to many other developments in Kilifi County. Remember where Ria Vipingo was? So Santa has taken that over and now has put up great real estate pieces that you can own. Deposit of 10%. Have that. You have access to water round the clock, electricity round the clock, just next to the substation. Water has been provided. Great units that you can own. Fantastic playing area for children, close to many other developments and amenities. And Centum is saying, grab a hold of it, pay a deposit, and it could be yours.
And you'll be all set.
Imagine.
All you need to do is call Centum on 0740 400 215. That's 0740 400 215. Or SMS the word Vipingo to 22365. There's a story that we're looking at, and I'm going to finish it shortly, but let me first welcome our guest, because we have a guest in the studio. Ernest Nadome is the Assistant Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, Cotu. He is also the General Secretary of the Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union, KETAU. Ernest, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
Good to see you, man. You've been on this for a while.
Yeah, I will say for quite some time.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana. And, thank you very much, because this is my first time to be here, and it's a great honor to be invited here.
We hope to have some fruitful conversations on the plight of workers, the welfare of workers, and how to create a good workplace. And also ahead of Monday, which is Labor Day.
Yeah.
Let me finish a story that had started. There's a story that's covered in Nairobi today. It's about a 56-year-old man today. He's 56. His name is Josephat Kabutiei. This story began in 1994. That is about 29 years ago. The young man was about, 25? He was a youth leader at AIC Koiserat in Baringo County. He was a youth leader. There was another lady there. The lady is called Mary Boymet. She was a youth leader at another branch of the same church of the AIC. Now, Mary was about to get married to a gentleman called Joseph Cheserek. But just before she got married, she went to Mr. Kabutiei and she told Josephat, I want you to marry me. Please marry me. Wachana na mtu mwingine. Please marry me. Josephat was like, hey, my sister, whatever. He said no. So when he said no, she went to her fiance and said, huyu mtu amekuwa akinitaka sana, huyu mtu hataki tuoane, huyu mtu this and the other, said all those things, and the man of course hit the roof and was like, now surely what's this? How can this man be doing this? It went to the church, so it became a big issue. The man protested. This Kabutiei protested to the church, and the church held several meetings between him and the lady. The church leadership called him. Mambo inaendaje? The lady said, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was wrong. A year later, she wrote to him and she said, I have suffered enough, my brother. I have cried enough. In fact, it's unfortunate. It's me who wronged you. My brother, it was not intentional that I did these things. Please understand me. Please forgive me. A year later, when I said, I forgive you, but now you see, everybody knows me as a youth leader in the church. Everybody knows what you said about me. So please go and say all those things to everybody. Okay? Go and tell everybody that you lied. So he went to church and said, church, can you make it an announcement everywhere in Baringo, all the churches, that I actually did not do the things that I was accused of doing? The church leadership said, hey, wait, no. A meeting was then held at AIC Koiserat where the two were reconciled, but Kabutiei sought to have the apology made public and in all the churches where he was known and the allegations had spread. In 1995, John Churchill, the church secretary, wrote to the district church council saying, we discussed the matter at length. It should be made public that the allegations were false. We request that you inform the respective churches that the two have been cleared and can continue with their duties. In 1995, Reverend Zachariah Chiboi, who was in charge of Kabartonjo DCC, failed to act on the request, which made Kabutiei write several letters to him. Reverend, please. In 1998, the district church council meeting held on January 4th, 1998, had minutes indicating it was meant to confirm forgiveness, repentance, and informing other members that the issue has been resolved. At the meeting, Kabutiei and Boymet confirmed that they had buried the hatchet, but the matter took another twist after Reverend Cheboy himself declared that he had a bone to pick with Kabutiei. Reverend Churchill said he is still annoyed by Kabutiei for the very many letters that he sent him and his seniors with the false accusations. Reverend Churchill said that the matter had been discussed with those concerned and that announcement of the matter in all churches was not necessary. But Kabutiei nani akasema no. If sin is not announced publicly, the issue remains unresolved. He wanted the real things to be announced, well written. This is the time when Reverend Churchill said, sasa umekuja, come on. You know what, Toka kwa ikanisa. From today on, you're not a member of AIC. Kwana.
And did he have the powers to expel this?
He said, you get out. He was a DCC, bwana.
It doesn't matter.
He
have the powers.
He excommunicated him from the church. Reverend Churchill declared Kabutiei as one who should not have any relationship with those of the house of God. by reading Matthew chapter 18 verse 15 that one should take a step between one with misunderstanding who should be considered a non-believer if he continues to resist resolving the issue. He was also declared innocent. Boymet, the lady, was also declared innocent because she had also been forgiven by Kabutier. Now, because of being excommunicated from the church, the man now went to court. He has gone up to the Court of Appeal. He is saying, I need to be returned to the church, and I need this matter publicly announced that mimi sikukatia appointment, sikutaka kuoa appointment. I am not married up to now. I want to hold a church wedding. I am not a member of the church. Justice.
My friend, commitment.
Completely.
That is a serious person.
28 years pursuing that matter, saying, no, I was excommunicated from the church. The community views me in a different way, and I want that cleared. So then I can get a spouse and go to church and get married and start a family.
Mambo.
Even ndio kunaenda.
Christianity and its wars. It's raining, isn't it?
Everywhere.
Anyway.
Yeah. Give us the day's proverb, City, so we can welcome Ernest properly.
Every day of the week we have a proverb. This week our proverbs have been from the country of Cote d'Ivoire, otherwise known as the Ivory Coast. Now I promised my colleagues that I would tell them a little bit more about the country in terms of its economic activities and other interesting things. Now, I'm going to say this in exactly 20 seconds. One, the capital of Ivory Coast is not Abidjan, as most people believe or think. It's an interesting place. It's called Yamoussoukro. Yes, that's the capital. Though many government offices are still in Abidjan. The economy depends on agriculture, the usual things, yams, cassava, cocoa, coffee, and so forth. But they also have petroleum, natural gas, wood, gold, and diamonds. Now, it was called Ivory Coast because it had the largest herd of elephants in West Africa at some point. So in around 1400, when the white man came with his trade, this is what they traded in. Now, just so that you understand, many countries in West Africa were known for what they traded in the most. We only know of Ivory Coast because they traded in ivory and slaves. There was Gold Coast, which is now called Ghana. They traded in gold. There was Slave Coast, in case you didn't know. That was Benin. There was Pepper and Grain Coast. That was Liberia. Yes.
There was Grain Coast and Pepper and what?
Pepper and grain. One basket. That's Liberia.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. The proverb?
The proverb is this. I know my colleagues think that proverb is intended and it aims at them. They can think what they like. Wow. He who talks incessantly talks nonsense. And this is giving me that look. Are you sure that is a proverb? Yes, it is.
What's the interpretation of that proverb?
City, maybe let me start by confessing also that I thought Abidjan is the capital city of Ivory Coast, because I've gone there several times, only now to learn that Yamoussoukro is the capital city.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, interesting. My take from that proverb is that when you are talking, just be brave, factual, and to the point. And that is it. You don't need to repeatedly say the same story as if you are addressing different audiences. Yeah.
Say it once and say it well and move on.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. There was another proverb that he gave us last week. That the audience what? Those who speak think, those who listen.
Yeah.
Yes. What I said. Too much discussion means a quarrel.
There was the other one of those who speak think, those who are listening.
That was now a proverb from a different country.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll remember.
Yes.
Remember it shortly. Anyway, Ernest, karibu sana.
Asante.
The Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union. Introduce us to this union.
This is a union that was established in 1985. Prior to that, we are under a union called Amalgamated Workers Union. That is until 1985. But we also have an history behind that. The year 1968, we used to have the electricity power union, which in early 70s, we broke and now joined the Amalgamated Workers Union. It reached a time where the workers in the electricity sector felt that they were not represented. So the then members, the leaders who were there, agitated now for the split, for the formation of the Electricity Workers Union, which came into being now in 1985. From 1985, the union has been in existence. We've had the founder, General Secretary, the late, is called Pius Masika. Thereafter, in the year 1996, we ousted him, removed him from office, and it happened that that particular point in time, I was also part of that team, and I was elected.
You're part of the ousters, the coup leaders.
And not really ousting, but changing leadership.
Right.
Because if you guys remember, there are those guys, power brokers of this country, and so sorry with the due respect, Samuel Gishuru, who was the managing director of Kenya Power. And there were many things that were happening in the sector at that time. And some of us who were in Kenya Power College, we started agitating for change of leadership and change of terms and conditions of service. Because ironically, in college, you were whatever we were earning in comparison to what we will get when you get absorbed was far much lesser. So it didn't make any sense. So immediately when you were in college, we started agitating. And when I got employed now in 1991, and those hydro stations, Kamburu, and I joined forces with my colleagues because the then General Secretary had slept with the employer. We said now we must move in and get the right leadership. And we came in, and the most interesting thing, how we came in, it was not that easy because you can imagine those who were in leadership were so close to the powers that be. And what we had to do, because we had a lot of strikes by then. So we decided in 1996, when there was an SK show in Mombasa, and the late president of Mugabe was the chief guest, we decided to switch off power at the SK show. And that is when His Excellency, the late President Moi, asked, what is it? Why is power off? And that is when he was told by the late Energy Minister Nicholas Biwott that Kenya Power employees are not happy about the leadership. Then what is it? He said they want the union, those leaders who are elected, to be registered. Immediately there, His Excellency the President directed the then Attorney General Amos Wako to direct the Registrar of Trade Union, by then the late Omondi Mbago, to register us. So that is how we came into the leadership.
Right.
Now, Kenya Electrical Trade and Allied Workers Union has a membership of almost 15,000. And we draw our members, majority of them are from Kenya Power. We also have employees, members from Kenyan, Geothermal Development Company. We have GDC. We have Ketraco now. We have also brought them on board. We have other independent power producers like Haiba Africa. We have Rabai Power. And other small allied firms that we're also representing. We have Zika Power also are our members. So I think that is what I want to say.
15,000 members.
Yeah.
Hey.
But the potential is more.
Okay.
The potential is more because we still have EPRA, energy, the regulatory body, we are also moving in to get rural electrification employees. So the entire energy sector. We, in fact, in our constitution, the way the trade unions are set, it's sector-based. So it is upon us now to make sure that we recruit all these members who are in the electricity subsector.
Okay. What is the role of these unions? What is the role of this particular union that brings together all of these people from different organizations? What's the role?
Trade union per se and is all over. Ours is to represent the interests of our members in terms of I would say conditions of work, and this is normally comes in the form of what we are calling collective bargaining agreement. Essentially, that is our role, where we are able to represent the employee who works from morning up to evening. Must have a union that represents the interests, conditions of service. If you're talking about safety, you're talking about pay, you're talking about security of work. That is how we come in. And generally also, as trade union, we also play a role in ensuring that we have the right policies that take interest, cater the interest of workers.
Okay. So if you look at it from an umbrella position over the country, if you look at when this union, for example, this one is represented by you, came into place, and do a comparison between how workers either organized themselves or how they were treated or supported. And then with the entrance of a union, how have we seen that the condition of workers has changed, improved because of the existence of unions?
That's a very good question. Remember when I told you there was that agitation to form our own union in 1985. Prior to that, when we were in an amalgamated union, I can tell you the situation of workers was dire. And I must say this on television. By then, Kenya Power employees, you see these protective army boots that you put on, employees could not afford. The situation was so bad.
Those are safety
boots. Those are the shoes you put on 24/7. What does that tell you? It tells you the situation was bad. Living conditions, working conditions were bad. The accidents were rampant. And then there was total exploitation. Dismissal and termination was the order of the day. From that time, 1985, the journey that we've traveled up to now.
At that point, this was a state corporation.
Correct.
Kenya Power and Lighting Company. It was still one. So you're saying there was exploitation by a state corporation?
Of course, yes. You see, those who were in leadership, terms and conditions were terms of conditions of service employees were at the mercy of those who were in the leadership. That is why now the union said no. The workers said no. We want our own union that is going to advocate or agitate for our rights. So the formation of the union really brought in order. The formation of the union now enabled the workers to have a mouthpiece that was able to have a sit down with the employer, argue the case, and say now, this is what we normally do. At the end of when we are due for collective bargaining agreement, we sit down with the employer and now say, inflation has hit us. Like now we are talking of 9% inflation. When we go and sit down with the employer, first, like what is happening currently or the trend, you must be able to justify the demand that you want. So when the union was formed, they started now in earnest, and I can tell you, because when there is order at workplace, when the employer appreciates what the employee does, when the employer recognizes and rewards those who are good workers, then it even motivates others to work hard. And that is what the union brought in, where in a collective bargaining agreement, you have a provision for promotion. You have a provision for yearly increment. You are able to sit down with the employer, let's share the cake. So that is the difference I would want to say. You can imagine those years in Kenya Power, where we started, people were putting on those kind of shoes. There were no even protective clothing, and now come where we are. I'm not saying we are already there, but I can proudly tell you that journey we've traveled. Yeah, an employee of Kenya Power will tell you now, I own a house, I drive a vehicle. Yeah, those who've been there for long. Yeah, at least they can proudly say the journey we've traveled. But let me put a rider. It's not. We are not yet there.
Yeah.
We are not yet there because we still have those new employees. We still have challenges. Maybe I'll come to that later. What is the current status? Maybe for the last 5 years, how has the sector been? I know there's a lot to talk about.
Sure.
But generally, it's a journey that when I look back, even in my position, I look back since 1985 or 1996. I look back and I can proudly say that even if I exit the union, I'll live with my head held high. That this, at least, there's something I've done.
Let's take a break. We'll continue the conversation shortly, then we can delve into those issues. It's 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Ernest Nadome is the one of the two assistant secretary generals at Cotu, and he's also the general secretary of the Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union, KETAU. He's here because we want to talk about how we can ensure that there is always a conducive working environment for people and a conducive workplace for all the working places. City, today is the final day of the week of
the week,
World Immunization Week.
We are the ones
who
end our week on Fridays. But a week normally ends on Saturday because Sunday is actually the first day of the week. Okay, now depending on which calendar you refer to, but it's Sunday.
This one of those World Immunization people ends on Sunday,
yes,
on 30th.
Yes, exactly. So the truth of the matter is that even when the 30th comes and we look forward to a new month, what the management of the Ministry of Health and their partners are trying to put across, it's a message that should go beyond that particular date. Because when you talk of immunization, when you talk about vaccination, you talk about vaccines, it's not a story that ends because the week has come to an end. It's a story that must continue because vaccines are safe. Vaccines are protective. Vaccines save lives. And vaccines are available. And the government, together with its partners, WHO and UNICEF, are saying government facilities, hospitals have these vaccines. They are vaccines for children. They are vaccines for new and emerging diseases. Please go and get yourselves vaccinated. And when you are told that you require more than one vaccine, adhere to what you have been told, because that is when you will guarantee that you have the full protection that you need from the vaccines. Let me repeat, they are safe and they can be trusted.
Very good. 27 to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hello, Mama Juma.
Hi, Mama Imani. I did not see you yesterday. Where were you?
I went to the clinic to take Imani for vaccination.
Oh.
The nurse told me that Imani is doing well and needs to continue getting all the required vaccinations. Has Juma also completed all his vaccinations?
Oh, I'm not even sure. I have not been in the clinic since Juma turned 1 year.
Wow.
Do you mean that there are other vaccinations that are given after 1 year?
Of course. The nurse told us to continue taking our children to the clinic until they complete the immunization schedule. Mama Juma, you need to take Juma back to the clinic to get the vaccines he has missed.
Oh, I will.
I was informed that my child will need to receive a second dose of measles vaccine at 1.5 years.
Nice.
Completing the vaccine schedule protects our children from many diseases.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing this with me. I will make sure that I take Juma back to complete all the required vaccinations.
Thank you so much, Mama Juma. Please do not miss to take Juma back.
I will.
Vaccines protect us against diseases such as polio, measles, pneumonia, diarrhea, cervical cancer, and even COVID-19. Vaccines are safe and available at no cost at all immunizing health facilities. The Ministry of Health is commemorating National Immunization Week from 24th to 30th April 2023. During this week and beyond, ensure your loved ones receive all the required vaccination according to the immunization schedule. This
All right, cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, highs of 21 and and lows of 15. It's sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 24. In a sunny Nyeri at 16. At 13, it's sunny in Eldoret, highs of 21 and 25. And raining in Mombasa, highs of 27 and lows of 24. The rain also keeps coming down in Malindi. At 26, it will go to highs of 27 and lows of 25. It's sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 26 as well in a sunny Kakamega at 18. It's 19 and partly cloudy out in Kampala, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 27 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 26. It's 13 and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 27 and lows of 12. And at 25, Lagos is cloudy. It'll go to highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 13 and mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 24. All right, so on Jogo Road is heavy into the city, and we're looking at Landys now, packed bumper to bumper. It's a lot of the traffic, folks getting in and out of the bus station. So that's been an issue this morning. Also, some traffic on Lunga Lunga. It's in and outbound. It's all coming off of Outer Ring. Folks coming in from Kangunda Road, Manyanja Road, as well as Juja Road. Into the city from the Thika Superhighway, it is heavy from the Utali Drift. And we're looking at traffic into the CBD off Uhuru Highway. And quite some of it then coming out of Westlands at this point. Limuru is also pretty busy, as is James Gishoro, spilling over to Waiyaki Way and then into the CBD. It's a Friday morning, typical things happening on our roads this morning, and hopefully we can keep careful even as we go out and about. Outbound traffic is also a thing going into the long weekend, so let's be careful as we traverse these Nairobi streets and out into other parts of the country. Let's talk on Spice FMKE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
8, the conversation continues with Ernest Nadome, who is a trade unionist representing the Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union, and also at the helm of the Central Organization of Trade Unions. So, Ernest, workers in the electricity sector are the main ones that you represent in this union. This includes, like you said, Kenya Power, Kenyan, geothermal development, some IPPs like Rabai Power, Thika Power, and others. Now, the power sector has been facing issues and challenges. You know, every time nowadays we talk about power, you're like, okay, so cost of power is high. So we go for, if there's an outage in your estate and you call and they come, you just look at how long it takes to get issues resolved, and you ask yourself, so what's happening in this sector? Is it healthy? Like, do we have a healthy energy sector in Kenya?
I will say yes and no. I will say that, and if you allow me to just to draw a parallel, Kenya Power positions itself as a very critical entity within the sector. Kenya Power, whatever happens in Kenya Power has a ripple effect in the other utilities. And the challenges in Kenya Power date back to almost 10 years. And I always like drawing a parallel between Kenya Power and Kenyan. I do that because Kenyan is a child, let's say, an offspring of Kenya Power, where I used to work. I was in Kenya Power when I started working until 2000. Now, when they separated, I remained in Kenyan, in those power stations. And for the last, let's stretch back for the last 20 years. Kenya Power, Kenyan, has had three, almost I will say now, maybe with the acting CEO, 4 CEOs for the last 20 years. We started with Edin Njoroge, by then, when the new government, Kibaki government, came into power. Then later on, we had Albert Mugo, engineer. Then we had our current CS now, Rebecca Miano. And then we have the acting now, MD Abraham Serem. If you look at Kenya Power, the last 20 years, I mean, not even, in the interest of time, I will not mention all the MDs. we are talking over 10 managing directors. The boards, we have almost had 10. In Kenyan, barely have they been 3. And this has had a big problem in Kenya, with Kenya Power, where there is a very, very high turnover of the board, high turnover of the CEO. This has really affected service delivery in Kenya Power. And this has even been compounded by interference. Interference, I will emphasize that, by the government, the national government. Because it's like Kenya Power has been a cash cow for successive governments, to the extent that it has affected its stability. We've made noise. And we are now appealing to the current government, because now you've seen in the newspaper, we are now having new CEOs being appointed in the sector. In Kenya Power, they did interviews sometimes back, fast, before even GDC, before Ketraco. And we could see the same problem now, Kenya Power. You interviewed the CEOs, you've not appointed up to now. The other institutions that did the interviews 2-3 weeks ago, they have appointed their CEOs. So you can see there are a lot of intrigues, there are a lot of interest. And this is what has affected Kenya Power for us. I must speak this as a workers' representative. Where you see an employee of Kenya Power out there, you think that employee is wrong. You think that employee is the one who is not attending or doing what is expected of him. You've mentioned rightly about our people attending to shutdown, our people connecting meters. You see, at the end of the day, what an employee requires is be facilitated. This employee requires materials. This employee requires protective gear. This employee requires equipment. You need, if you're talking of meters, and we've had those complaints, these are challenges that we are facing. You want to be erected a pole. You have applied electricity for the last 2 years, and you start calling us names. I will give an example of a previous board that was there. That took almost 2 years to approve a procurement plan. We are in boards, and we know what it means. The role of the board when you approve a procurement plan, then the rest will roll out. So the previous board, we have those kind of challenges. We've made presentations, we've made submissions that if you want to turn around Kenya Power, this is what will happen. At least there is a relief now. We have a new government where we're expecting leadership. We are expecting order in the sector, and we hope because at least for the new board that is there, Kenya Power, we have had an opportunity to sit down with them, share with them, tell them our perspective, what should be done. But most importantly is the worker. And I'm not trying to take sides here. The Kenya Power employee is demoralized. The Kenya Power employee, you're talking of somebody who has served for 15, 20 years without a promotion. This is what we are battling with. The Kenya Power employee has been a cashier for the 10, 15 years. The Kenya Power employee, currently, as you rightly put, why do employees take 10 hours to come to attend to those breakdowns? There is serious shortage of staff in Kenya Power, but we are happy that at least the new board now has taken it upon themselves to see how they can enhance the numbers. We have sat down with the employer about the issues of the plight of workers. They are demoralized. We've told them this is what we want, and now there is a roadmap on what we intend to do. I know the employees will want it even now, but what we are telling the employees, just be patient. There is goodwill with the new board, and hopefully we get a substantive CEO. With a substantive CEO, things will work out. But we cannot continue having for the last 5 years acting CEOs who cannot make decisions, who are at the whims. Any decision they make is at the whims of the board or at the CS Minister for Energy.
How is the union supported? I mean, very simply, how does the union now then make a little bit of money to make sure that all of these activities that you clamor for are actually met? Where does your funding come from?
Our funding from the union, let me say, it's not even funding. Our upkeep. The upkeep for the union comes from the members through a check-off, and this is what all the unions go through, where at the end of the month, members contribute in form of a check-off to the union, and this money that we receive is what now takes care, cuts for our activities, pays our salaries, because those of us now who are there, who are permanent, we are permanently now working for the union. We are not in any way drawing any salary from the employer. These are the monies that facilitate our moving around, but we are faced with the same challenges, just like other institutions, like now the challenges all Kenyans are facing.
Even as you talk about the challenges then that workers are facing, the question that comes to my mind is, what responsibility then do employers have, or what nudging, how far is your influence as unions then over employers, that just because you say something, do they have to listen to you? Why would it be in the interest of an employer to say, okay, the unions have brought this to our attention, workers are working under difficult conditions, the safety matters taken into consideration, for example, and to say, like, for example, there is instability in the workplace because of the changing of the guard so often. Why would they have to listen to you as employers? They could say, we're doing our best. Once it gets better, it gets better. Why would they have to listen to a union?
I think any good employer will have to recognize and appreciate the role of the union. In a setup where you have almost 10,000 employees and you don't have a voice, you don't have an organ that you can use to reach out to them, then you're in problems. So we come in as a union, because currently as the situation is, all is not well with the employees. We are even talking of a collective bargaining agreement that has not been there for the last 2 or 4 years. We want to negotiate. It is us, it's the medium, it is us, the link between management and the workers. It is us now who are able to sit down with the employer, present workers' issues. These are the challenges workers are facing. The employer is able now to put us through that, yes, like now the situation that Kenya Power faced for the last 3-4 years, where there was a subsidy of 15%, and the government said they will pay 14 billion. The government ended up paying Kenya Power only 7 billion. There was a shortfall of 7 billion. The other utilities were also supposed to pay Kenya Power. You see, when you have such information as workers' representative and you see the reality, what Kenya Power is going through, then we appreciate and we do the same, go down with the management. That's what we do. Go to talk to the workers, explain to them the situation, and then from there, even workers, occasionally, they will even tell us, these are areas of spillages. These are areas that you are saying, you're not doing well here. The employees will tell you, why are you having contractors doing work? And here we are idle. We are not doing anything. What is the justification? So these are things that, and a company like Kenyan, I will give an example where there is innovation. There is a good to great where innovation is being, employees now encouraged to come up with new ideas. And this is what Kenya Power now intends to do. So for us as a union, we are partners in business.
Partners with whom? The
employer. With the employer, we are partners in business where we are able to sit down with the employer and tell them, no, this can't work. And also, we are also very good whistleblowers. Where there is abuse in an entity, where we know there is outright theft by the managers, and we have been able to point out this, even we've gone public. And even written letters to EACC, written letters to DCI. There is abuse here. We have some rogue employers, rogue managers, and there are even some government officers who are messing up the company.
Do you think the role of unions, just looking at that, and this is what we are saying, that, getting to a place whereby the workforce is protected in this country, and using, the power sector as an example. I hear and I listen and I see examples of countries where the unions are so strong that if an employee sneezes, the employer is very careful about what they will say, do, or how they will react because of the strength of a union. How do you think then that this union here that we use as an example, or even those, around the country, can make it so much so that they influence directly just how protected an employee would be?
Thank you. I'll just give an example of a recent case where we represent workers in geothermal development company. There is, and I will say for lack of a better word, a rogue contractor went to court, has been in court since last year, and got an order to freeze the account of geothermal development company. It's been in the public domain. And when that happened, we didn't know the details, we didn't know what was happening. It affected employees of GDC. They didn't get their salary. There were many challenges at work where vehicles were grounded. You could not even fuel, imagine, a parastatal vehicle. So what did we do? We communicated to the employer. We gave an ultimatum. We want to know what is happening. And the employer was really not serious. So what did we do? We called a press conference and said, now we are going to issue a strike notice. Immediately after that, the branch leadership also went in Nakuru, issued a presser, and it did not take a day. So the next day we were called by the board chair, we were called by the MD, we sat down, we were taken through, they took us through what was happening. They explained to us, and we told them, no, this is unacceptable. We raised a few issues here and there, and I'm happy that meeting was fruitful because now workers were able to go and explain to them, this is what is happening in the company. And the issues that could be attended or addressed were done immediately. For Kenya Power, it is in the public domain. Many years we've been on the street. We are known. We used to call mother of all strikes. But you see, over time, before even the new labor laws came in, we now have the legal and institutional framework where we are able to sort out a number of issues. I can tell you we do many things all the time. We do collective bargaining agreement. In fact, every day, unions sign collective bargaining agreement. And we normally pride ourselves as trade union that we help also the country in trying to alleviate poverty. You can imagine, even here Standard Group, sorry to say with due respect, you can't just sit down there and wait to get a salary increment tomorrow morning. There is no employer who can do that. So for us, we come in as a union and say, no, demand. And that's our language. We demand. We have done our bit. Can we share the cake? That is now how we come in. So as trade union, we are involved in policy. We participate in policy formulation. When you're talking about economic growth, those particular employees, you now, Eric, working for Standard Group, if you have a union, I doubt whether you're in the union, but if you are a member of the union, I'm sure the union negotiates for you. And when the union negotiates for better terms and conditions of service, what does that tell you in terms of what role are we playing nationally? So that is how now we come in. So as a workers' representative, we will continue. That is our role. We know we're operating under very difficult environment currently, where employees' civil summer salaries are delaying, where counties have not gotten their salary for 3 months and thereabout. So this is the environment that we operate. But maybe just to respond to what also she was talking about, when you're talking about strong union strikes. One thing that we observe the law. We are very good in really making sure that we adhere to the provisions of the law. We now have the labor courts. We have the labor courts. We have an elaborate machinery that addresses dispute workers' issues. And this came in with the 2007 labor laws, where now right from the shop floor. And I think that's where people need to understand. The environment, we now have what is called the gig economy. The informal economy. We are talking of 85% of Kenya is in the informal economy. So as trade union, Our role now is really to make sure, what do we do? You may look at us here nationally, but at the high international labor organization, where I've been attending the conference with Mr. Tuli and my other team members for almost the last 15 years, every year, June this year we will be going. That is where we come up with conventions at the international level. Like now, the other day, my boss actually pleaded with Excellency the President, and he accepted. They want now to pass the gender-based violence convention, which we passed 2 years ago at the high law. So this is the role that we play. We do it at the international level, but when we now come to back home, we now impress upon...
You domesticate it.
You domesticate it. We are talking of the issues about social protection. NSSF, what is happening now with the NSSF? This is something, this has been our baby. We've had Kenya, somebody retiring for 10, 15 years. You get a lump sum of 20, 40,000, you go nothing, and that's why people die. We've been pushing. After we passed that, the Social Protection Floor Convention 202, we came in and said, the government, we need NSSF to be reformed. Now, at least, though there is an outcry, but there is one thing. In the next 5, 10 years, people will be happy because now anybody will be retiring, will be on a pension.
They'll start seeing a pension.
They'll start seeing the fruits of that.
Why is it that Kenya Power attracts so much attention and most of that attention seems to be negative?
Yeah, good. I think, and I mentioned it, CT, the challenges Kenya Power is facing. Instead of Kenya Power now coming out as an entity to go and market itself out to the public, Kenya Power has been doing firefighting.
Why? And you have a monopoly?
You see, I'm talking about firefighting because of leadership. Not getting the right leadership. I must say that, not getting the right leadership. Not getting, like now, I know the issues of IPP. You guys, I don't want to go to that, but I just want to clear there on one issue, which I know it has been in Parliament, and it was also mentioned here by one of the members of Parliament, the chair of the Senate Committee, about the Kenya Power Pension Fund. I happen to be a trustee, and I happen to be a chairman of one of those committees. There is a difference, there is a distinction between Kenya Power Pension Fund and Kenya Power and Lighting Company. It is distinct because it is completely separate. The way the pension fund is run is clear, is regulated by Retirement Benefit Authority. So what happens when an existing employee in Kenya Power contributes, let's say 5% of his salary, employer contributes 10%. That totals to 15%. That amount is remitted to the pension. This particular pension is run by a board of trustees. And according to the Retirement Benefit Authority, there has to be representation of the employer, there has to be representation of employees, appointed and nominated. So in our case, we have retirees representation, the union is there, and the employer is there. So once money has been remitted, it is now upon the pension fund to make sure that this particular contribution, the money they have gotten, they invest it wisely so that they get higher return. So where you invest, there is nobody who is going to dictate to you, but the Retirement Benefit Authority has also requirements where areas that the asset classes where you're supposed to invest. For the case of the Gulf Power that you're talking about, that is an unquoted asset class, which we are allowed by
so
the
are
employer.
You saying that your pension fund has a lot of money?
Yes, I can proudly say that we are now clocking almost 40 billion. The pension fund is worth 40 billion.
What's your shareholding in Gulf Power?
It's 10%. And I think this needs to come out clearly because people don't understand. In fact, the Presidential Task Force on power purchase agreement flagged off that issue But when they delved deeper into it, they realized these are two different entities. And I think we will also be able to make a presentation to the Senate, to make them understand that we are a different entity altogether. And what drives the pension scheme is return on investment. In fact, IAB Africa, we used to invest in them as a pension fund. We exited after we made our money, and now
you're in power.
Yeah.
Okay. Ernest, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for sharing all this information with us about union and what the union does. Ernest Nadome is the Assistant Secretary General of the Cotu and the General Secretary of the Kenya Electrical Trades and Allied Workers Union. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 8 a.m.
Court has placed 9 suspects on their defense in relation to the Solai Dam tragedy in Nakuru that killed 45 people 4 years ago. Naivasha Chief Magistrate Nathan Luta said that they had a case to answer following evidence deduced by 36 state witnesses. In the case, the farm owner Peri Mansukh and the others are charged with 48 counts of manslaughter and neglect of duty. The case will come up for mention on May 11th.
On which a reasonable tribunal, properly directing its mind to the law and the evidence, will convict if no explanation is offered by the defense. In my humble view, it would be inadvisable for me to give reasons for holding that the accused persons have a case to answer at this point. Of course, the reasons are obvious. I therefore make a finding in totality that all the accused persons have a case to answer. They are placed on their defense on all the counts they are charged with.
The Higher Education Loans Board has unveiled a new application through which university and college students can now use to access their loans. The Help Mobile Wallet payment solution was launched in collaboration with telecommunications giant Safaricom during the 2023 Help Universities Consultative Forum. The solution, which allows eligible students to apply for loans, view loan statuses and repay loans, is accessible through the Safaricom M-Pesa mini app and Help USSD code, that is *642#. The Judiciary's allocation has been increased from 18.8 billion shillings to 22.9 billion shillings in the next financial year. According to a cabinet dispatch, the move is in line with Kenya Kwanza's pledge to strengthen and institutionalize judicial independence. Late last year, during the launch of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice annual report, President William Ruto said he will remain committed to his promise to empower the judiciary and the criminal justice system by facilitating their funding and independence. He said the only way to guarantee a safe and thriving nation is through independent institutions, including a professional police force. Now, the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee has unanimously approved 6 out of 9 proposals to amend existing bills. Led by the committee Vice Chairperson Mary Mase, BSC opposed the Prevention and Protection Against Cattle Rustling Bill 2023 that sought compensation for cattle rustling. The committee expressed fears that the bill might be abused by rogue individuals. Instead, the committee supported the existing legislation that takes care of the compensation of cattle rustling victims. And Kenya's Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya has invited Danish waste recycling companies to invest in Kenya's emerging circular economy, saying the country had established a robust regulatory framework to anchor the sector. Speaking Denmark during the official opening of this year's Loop Forum in Copenhagen, where she delivered the keynote address at the invitation of the Danish government, CS Tuya assured prospective investors of the Kenyan government's full support. Denmark's Loop Forum is Scandinavia's largest exhibition of circular economy technologies, product and innovation, and brings together participants from Europe and the rest of the world. With the support of the Danish and Dutch governments, Kenya hosted her inaugural Loop Forum in February this year. The exhibition brought to Nairobi over 1,000 participants from across the world. And a devastating drought that has struck the Horn of Africa could not have occurred without global warming, according to a new report released from an international team of climate scientists. Since late 2020, countries on the Horn of Africa, that is Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan and Sudan, have been suffering the worst drought in 4 years. The extended drought has led to the deaths of millions of heads of cattle and wiped out crops. The WWA study concentrated on the 3 areas worst hit by the drought, that is southern Ethiopia, Somalia and eastern Kenya. While climate change had little effect on total annual rainfall in the region, higher temperatures have significantly significantly increased evaporation from soil and plants, which has made dry soils much more likely, according to the 19 scientists who contributed to the report. And more than 100 Kenyans left Khartoum for the South Sudan border to come home following the ongoing military conflict in the country. The Kenyans left Khartoum by bus and now have been living in the Kenyan embassy since Monday. This as another 140 Kenyans left Sudan for Ethiopia, then South Sudan, where they were received by Red Cross officials before starting their journey home. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Jogger Road busy this morning and we're getting traffic going into the city. We're also looking at Lunga Lunga heavy. It's spilling over towards the interchange that then connects to the southern bypass. And there it is again, that traffic that's coming off of North Airport Road, heading through towards the eastern bypass. Coming off Cabanas, very slow movement as you're going in that direction. It's been there for a couple of days. There must be something cooking up there. James Gishuru, busy going through towards Waiaki, and Limuru Road, there is traffic this morning. The northern bypass also giving to that whole area coming off Ruaka, and then it spills over through into the city. Kiambu Road hasn't done too poorly today. A little bit of traffic at that junction as you come towards Muthaiga Square, connects with what's coming off the Pangani underpass. And that's what it looks like at about a few minutes after 8 o'clock. We'll circle back and see what happens in about half hour or so. Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter as we keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is 7 minutes
This
after
is
8.
The Situation Room.
Welcome to the third hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home, on YouTube and on Facebook. Have you called Kingdom Bank because we keep telling you, oh, please, you know what? You have some money and you want to make sure that your money does not depreciate by keeping it under the mattress. Take it to Kingdom Bank and they'll show you how to song a bell in a Kingdom Bank by helping you open a fixed deposit account or a savings account or a junior savings account. And from as little as 50,000 shillings, you start earning up to 10% interest on your deposits. All you need to do is walk to any branch of Kingdom Bank countrywide and talk to them. Remember, Kingdom Bank is a fully owned subsidiary of the Cooperative Bank. So it's a solid institution, a partner at a fly-by-night. It's regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. A partner fly-by-night. So call them 0709 881300. That's 0709 881300. Or if you go to Vipingo, you land at Vipingo, just that airstrip right there. You cross over the gate, you get to the Vipingo development by Centum Real Estate, and then what happens?
You find these fantastic units that you can just pay a deposit and own.
Like that. Mm-hmm. Just 10%.
There's water, there's electricity, round the clock. You don't have to look for it. All these amenities that you need. Fantastic play area for children. I mean, deposit and it starts to become yours.
Like that.
Magic almost.
The deposit, 178,000 shillings, is 10% of 1.78 million shillings, which is the lowest that you can get for a unit at Vipingo development. Okay, they've done the first set of 500 houses, handed over to their owners. Now they're doing the second phase of another number of units, and they say, come and buy. SMS the word Vipingo to 22365 For more information, we have a guest with us in the studio. He is the communications manager of the Kenya Red Cross. And he's here because we'd like to know, what the Kenya Red Cross is doing in terms of addressing the disasters that we have, and also to see from their own experience, do we have a proper disaster preparedness mechanism in this country? Drought, not a single drop of rain. And then, rain comes.
Plenty of drops of rain.
Plenty. And people have been displaced. It's flooding left, right, and center. And the issue is the people who've been displaced, they're getting support. And we hear all the time, watu wa Red Cross wamekuja, they've come with tents, they've come with blankets, they've come with sufrias, they've come with food, they've come with matchsticks, hata kuni karibu walete, so that you can help people. All this work that Kenya Red Cross does, are we prepared for it? Right now, we're talking about the biggest news of in the country this week is Shakahola and what's happening in Kilifi County. And the Kenya Red Cross is right there and assisting with the identification of the victims, also with not assisting the workers, their team that's down there in exhumation of bodies and all this. And the Kenya Red Cross, the other day we saw the Red Cross donated a huge container truck that's now being used to hold the bodies that have been exhumed. Yes.
You're good.
Peter Boyle, Communications Manager, Kenya Red Cross. Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Ado and CT. I'm happy to be in the hot seat.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Make yourself comfortable. It's red, just like your logo.
Yes. I have red inside, but I will keep the grey on for now.
You'll keep the grey on. Nesa sawa.
Yeah.
City has the day's proverb. This week's proverbs are from?
They're from the country of Cote d'Ivoire. And in an early hour, and in an even earlier hour than the early hour, my colleagues had taken me to task and said, for heaven's sake, stop just telling us the proverb, go into little details, give us a little history of the country. And I will. We said, it's one of these countries where people assume had one capital, then there are others who assume it has two capitals. Abidjan is the city that people know about. But yet there is another one, Yamoussoukro. That actually is the capital city.
The administrative capital.
Yes, New capital.
Is it like Dodoma
and Dar es Salaam?
Dar es Salaam for Tanzania.
It is. And if you go to Nigeria, you'll find a similar story as well.
Yeah.
Okay. But of interest, what makes Yamoussoukro an important place? Historically, it was the birthplace of their first president, Hufwa Bwenyi. And when he was president from 1963 to 1963, it was like his unofficial capital. That is where he worked from. But of significance, it has, according to the Guinness Book of Records, the largest church on the planet. It's called, yes, Basilica of Our Lady of Peace.
Wow.
Hugest church.
It's larger than St. Peter's Basilica?
Let me just repeat again. Largest church on the planet.
Large by what? By surface area or
large by surface area, large by the dome that it has, the capacity it has, the 18,000 people can be nestled in there comfortably. So, it is, you could even call it not just a historical site, but it is...
Who built the church?
The government built the church.
Is it a Catholic church or
it is a Catholic church. Now you need to understand, a basilica is not a cathedral. Okay, a cathedral is the seat of the bishop. That's where headquarter bishop. Basilica is a church that is given special functions, special recognition by the Pope, either for cultural issues or whatever it is that the Pope deems. So it is part and parcel of the diocese.
Right. Okay. The proverb.
The proverb.
I thought he was going to forget the proverb.
Oh, no. Even if I wanted to, they would not let me forget the proverb, I assure you. Okay? He who talks incessantly talks nonsense.
A good proverb while coming to the studio.
Yeah. He who talks incessantly talks nonsense.
Yes, and I've been talking incessantly.
After that short speech.
Those few remarks.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Now, Peter, let's just get straight on from with an update from your teams on the ground. I'm sure that you're able to communicate with them. Start with the flood situation in the country. Many people, many communities have been affected. Many have been displaced, and the Red Cross is assisting many.
Yeah.
How many affected so far?
Thank you, Eric. Yes, the flood situation is getting dire as we get deeper into the rain season. You know, traditionally April is usually the peak of the rain season in Kenya, the long rains. And after about 3 years, because the last time some parts of this country got significant rains were sometimes in 2020. And during that period, there was a lot of flooding in the non-traditional flooding areas. This is the counties in the north, Mandera, Garissa, Marsabit. All those counties experienced heavy flooding, and we literally had to evacuate relief using helicopters, and populations were marooned. That's what we are seeing this year again, and this is happening after, like I said, those 3 years of having floods. So the floods are not only limited in those areas. We've also begun to witness flooding in the traditional areas around Lake Victoria, Kisumu West, the Nyando sub-county. They are currently experiencing floods, though not as intense as previous years. We have seen a lot of flash floods. But straight to the question of how many people are currently affected, we're now talking about some 4,000 households that have already, people have been displaced. We haven't begun doing camps or anything like that, because one of the things that Red Cross has been encouraging is resilience from the community, being able to find ways to adopt. So we mostly supporting people from either those that can still stay in, or those that can stay with relatives in places that are not so heavily flooded. So that is what is happening in the northern parts of the country, the areas around Irisabubu in Isiolo, where you have villages totally marooned. And these rains are those that are happening within those areas. And we also have our neighbors in Ethiopia, where we have highlands that also, when it rains there, it also tends to flood in the lower parts of the country. So most of the things that we are currently dealing with, of course, when it rains and your land is flooded, so it's shelter is gone because you can't sleep in a flooded house. Some people have their households totally, washed away. Things like latrines, most of them use latrines. So you have a situation where latrines are washed away, and then there is now the risk of cholera and other diseases. So that is where we are currently. I'll just limit to talking about the people who have been, the households who have been displaced. Now, when you talk about households, you see you have to extrapolate that to actual numbers. And the average number we multiply that with is about 5 per household. Yeah,
those are many.
Even as we were talking at the introduction, you don't keep coming to my mind. If the Red Cross don't intervene, what then happens?
Yeah.
Because every time we have a problem of a profound nature, whether it is flooding, whether it is drought, now we have this situation in Shakahola, this horribly, terribly tragic situation. And again, we have the Red Cross. Tell us how it is the Red Cross coordinates its activities with the government agencies that deal with such issues.
Yes, when I was listening to your introduction, the first one at 6, as he was making his introduction, I had Ndu saying that the Red Cross has taken over. That is not the truth. The Red Cross has not taken over anything. In fact, we are in the space that we should occupy rightfully. Red Cross is an organization that exists to complement or to work auxiliary to government, and that is why our existence is as a result of an act of parliament. Of course, because of the Geneva Conventions that recognizes that there has to be a Red Cross national society that during times of disaster will support government agencies where they may be stretched. And we work very closely with government agencies. For example, in the flood response, one of the agencies that we work with very closely is KMD, Kenya Meteorological Department, because we have to know what is happening ahead. So that we can be able to map, we can be able to prepare, preposition what we need to preposition, sometimes even warn and advise communities to take preventive action. In fact, these numbers are low because of such actions. We already began sending bulk SMSs, we call them terror messages, to communities in places that we had been forewarned that would experience flooding. So we have agencies in government, including the National Disaster Management Authority, that we collaborate with in a lot of these things. Of course, we know that sometimes they are stretched, and the Red Cross has to...
There's a Disaster Management Authority?
Yes,
yes. The drought management.
The National Drought Management Authority.
Yeah, because disaster
does not exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist, and we hope it sometimes will. In fact, we have a disaster bill that is pending, approval through Parliament.
Three parliaments.
We met the president last week, and still I implored upon him, and we hope that soon that bill will become law. I think it will define a lot of how some of these things are done. It probably improve the landscape of disaster management in Kenya.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then to say having taken over is not necessarily a bad thing, because had it not been for the presence then of the Red Cross, there's certain things that we've seen happen that unfortunately would not have happened if he had not come in. If we're looking at the issues of floods,
yes.
If we're looking at prior to that, the issue that was so terrible with drought, if we're looking today, for example, at the number of bodies that were exhumed in Kilifi County, and without the makeshift morgue, the cold tank that's being used right now, that we shudder to think what would have happened if the Red Cross had not intervened. Now we understand that it is mandated because of the societies and what they've ratified to be able to do in countries. We understand that it's a mandate, but we also see the gaping holes that would be left if not for that intervention, right? So taking over is not necessarily a bad thing. In some times, it is absolutely necessary, because without that, you would have to ask what will happen otherwise. When do you know to step in? Shakahola, for example, 3 weeks ago, we were not telling this story. 3 weeks ago, 110 dead bodies was not an issue. When now would you know, okay, this is time for us to step in? When now, how many people do we have to say are suffering as a result of drought before the Red Cross now says, okay, guys, we need to come in here? How many flood areas have to be reported before the Red Cross says, okay, you know what, we need to step in and start to do something, ask people to move to higher ground, provide blankets, and when do you?
That's a very important question, first of all, our mantra is first in, last out. It means that our policy is that when something happens, we try as much as possible to arrive there as fast as possible. And in terms of the magnitude, we do not wait for one person to be displaced, one person to die. We move in when we feel the situation could affect human beings. 1, 10, we have to move in. And so even if it is only one person that is affected, for us, that's human life, because of the fundamental principles of the Red Cross movement. The first is service to humanity. And it starts from the single individual to as many. Shakahola has happened, and it has metamorphosized very fast. Things are moving very, very fast. I think many of us, many people were actually caught unawares. You couldn't have expected that it would be to that magnitude. And that's the reason why within the Red Cross, preparing during normal times, we have to put our house in order during times that are normal. When a disaster happens, you don't have time to prepare. You just have to move. And that's why our volunteers, and we move in, people ask us, how is it that something happens and within no time your volunteers are there? Our volunteers are members of the community. They live in the community. I can assure you, within the KTN establishment, there are volunteers here. You may not know them until something starts to happen. Then they will get into gear and respond. So it is that we have to be ready all the time, because we cannot know when a disaster will strike, and we must be ready when it strikes, and we must be ready with the equipment. Even within the Red Cross, sometimes some people didn't know that we have that kind of mobile. You have mobile mortuaries. Until it, you don't know that we have, for example, body bags. We have supplies most of the body bags that are being used on the ground. We have to have those things. It's not because we expect people to die, but just in case they did.
But because people will die.
Well, given the history of the Red Cross and given the areas in which the Red Cross has worked right across the globe, apart from just providing the service, you collect the data, and so you understand that in the event that such a thing happens, this is what you are likely to be involved. Because Red Cross has been involved in war zones.
Yes.
Now, war zones, people die.
Yes.
And they die in large numbers.
Yes.
So, it stands to reason. Now, something I want to ask you. The Red Cross has always had an association with schools, learning institutions.
Yes.
How strong is that connection with the individuals who are part and or members of the Red Cross? And how does that association carry on with them when they go to institutions of higher learning and beyond?
Yes, our Red Cross school chapters is one of the strengths that we have. In fact, we begin to disseminate, or at least, let me use the word recruit, members of the Red Cross from age 6. So we have the Junior Red Cross, which starts off from age 6 in primary level. And we have school chapters of Red Cross in many, many, many schools. So this goes on until, they go through universities. Many universities also have Red Cross chapters. And basically, it is an opportunity to, encourage them on, teach them on early on volunteerism and how they can actually contribute to society. But beyond that, we are also teaching young people on, really, just how to fit in our society today. So it makes a very good recruitment ground when then now you are looking for volunteers. If you come to Kenya Red Cross, many of our staff, starting from even the former Secretary General Abbas himself was a Red Cross volunteer from when he was in high school in Mombasa.
He was.
So they transit like that until they become full-fledged staff or volunteers or members. Or some of them are in the governance. Our current governor, Honorable Geoffrey Korir, was a volunteer from when he was a youth. He's risen through the ranks. So that is how we structure our recruitment to make sure that there is always a steady supply of volunteers, well trained and equipped to support. Over 80% of Kenya Red Cross, 240,000 volunteers, are young people below the age of 45. Most of them began working with Red Cross when they were still in their school days.
At what age did you start working for the Red Cross? Or associating with the Red Cross?
I started associating with the Red Cross earlier on when I was in campus, but I have worked elsewhere for a long time before going back to Red Cross around 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Give us an update before you take a break of what's going on in Shakahola from your people on the ground. We know, yes, you've donated a mobile mortuary, but your teams are there. They're helping with the operation. How many exhumed so far?
Yes, thank you. So it's a big operation, like we've all seen from the media, coordinated, of course, by the Ministry of Interior, which is leading the investigation and discovery of the graves. But for the Kenya Red Cross, we are supporting in a number of ways. We have people also trained in dead body management, so they are helping with the team that is exhuming to make sure that these remains are well handled, preserved, so that when the investigations begin, then it's easy to identify them. You know that many of them have the bodies are decomposed, so it is going to be an issue. Even their families having to identify until DNA and other investigations are conducted. So preserving these remains is also an important thing. So far, 110 bodies have been exhumed and taken to the various morgues. But the biggest issue that we are dealing with as the Red Cross is the issue of missing persons. Family members have come up and reported at least 385 people who are missing. And when we are collecting this data, we do not pick it from any hoi polloi member of the public who just comes and says, so and so is missing. It is, we have to interrogate. How do you know this person? Is it a member of your family? When do they disappear? Why do you believe that they may be among those who could be here? And so by saying that 385 people are missing, it does not necessarily mean those people may be victims or may have lost their lives in the event. But for us, helping family members arrive at some sort of closure is very important. You know that the issue of missing people in Kenya has been a big issue, not just in Kenya but internationally. So, and from where I come from, a missing person is the most difficult thing to deal with. If you lost a relative, you never close. It's they used to, where I come from, they used to even bury a banana stem. But still, that would not make you forget that so and so is missing and has never been recovered. So we are trying to triangulate, make sure that we go to the hospital, we interview the families as the bodies come up. We're waiting. So we have that list until finally that is done. We were able to provide this mobile morgue as you have already alluded to. We hope that it will help. Ideally, most of our mortuary facilities cannot handle. Even in Nairobi here, we may not be able to handle that kind of, because you see bodies are coming in at the same time. In Malindi, we have a capacity of about 20 something. In Kilifi, even smaller. So it's a situation that required some serious intervention, in which we are glad to have partnered with the county government and the national government to provide that service.
385 is people who have been reported missing.
Yes.
And you've asked further questions to ascertain that, okay, there's a likelihood that what you're talking about could be answered in this operation.
Yes.
Of course, I'd imagine that one of the questions you'd ask is, was this person, did they ever indicate to you that they are a member of this it's called what, Good Hope or Good Life International? Good Life International. So many of these were actually members of Good Life International at one point or another.
So according to the family members who have given this report, they indicated that they believe they were members of that ministry.
What's the farthest in terms of time? What's the longest that somebody has been reported missing of these 385? 6 months, a year, 3 weeks?
So for us, reporting to the Red Cross, we do not know whether these people had reported this to other authorities. But we set up this desk about a week ago, just when this thing started. And for us, that is when we began receiving reports of missing persons. So many of these reports are just about a week.
What I'm asking is, the people who come and they say this person is missing, how long have they been missing?
Oh, yeah, it's varied. There are some who tell you that it's up to a year. Some, some longer than that. So the duration that they are speaking about varies.
Wow. Let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation shortly. 28 minutes to 9. Peter Abwao is the communications manager at the Kenya Red Cross Society. He's here this morning. We are talking about disaster preparedness and disaster response. This is something that the Kenya Red Cross is very, very good at, and we've witnessed it over the years in this country. CT, let us also prepare ourselves by giving our bodies the strength to fight diseases.
Let us give our bodies the opportunity to function as best as it can. Now, when one hears of diseases and the toll they have on human life, it is because something that could have been prevented was not prevented. Now, vaccines do precisely that. They protect, they prevent, they ensure that your body has a fighting chance in the event that it is attacked by some disease. Now, the Ministry of Health and the partners WHO and UNICEF have, for the whole of this week, been telling the Kenyan public that vaccines are available. There are vaccines that we are accustomed to when we talk about vaccines for children, whether it's a polio vaccine. Now we are talking about other vaccine, HPV. We're talking about malaria vaccines. We are talking about vaccines that can help prevent non-communicable diseases. And the government is saying, please, for your family, go to health facilities that provide these services. They are free of charge. Not low priced, free of charge. Get yourself vaccinated, and please ensure that the process and the protocol of the vaccination is followed. If you're told it is 1, then it is 1. If it is 2, then there are 2. Adhere to it so that you can stay healthy and you can stay well.
Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is 00 Direct, woman host, music by women and only women guest.
Everything is so larger than life. You kind of have to have a good understanding of who you are. You could easily lose yourself.
We have a global approach in the programs that we put together, meaning that it's not just about refining my business, it's about refining the industry. It's about touching the youth and making sure that in totality, change actually happens.
Catch 00 Direct every Saturday from 10 a.m.
Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 17, and it's 16 in Nakuru, 17 in Nyeri, and 15 in Eldoret. 25, and the rain is slamming down in Mombasa. It's doing the same thing in Malindi. Both will go to highs of 27. 26 and sunny is what it looked like in Kisumu, and 26 and sunny as well in Kakamega through Friday. Mostly cloudy conditions at 20 in Kampala, and 25 and mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam. It's 12 and mostly sunny in Johannesburg this morning, and cloudy at 25 in Lagos. It's now raining in Kinshasa at 24.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so traffic continues in certain parts of the city this morning. It's still heavy coming off the northern bypass. The southern bypass on the other side, it doesn't look too bad. Muthaiga then coming in through towards the Muthaiga Square. We're looking at heavy traffic, and that's feeding off of the Pangani underpass. What's taking the most hit this morning is Limuru Road coming from United Nations Avenue. And also the northern bypass, looking much better on the Thika Superhighway. And that North Airport Road situation is a lot better now, seeping onto Outer Ring. Okay, the drizzle will begin, has it not already, in certain parts of Nairobi. So be careful. Let's see what happens through the morning. Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 23 minutes to 9. The conversation continues with the Kenya Red Cross Society Communications Manager, Peter Abwao. Before the break, Peter, you give us an update on what's happening. I mean, the kind of support that the Kenya Red Cross is offering to the operation in Shakahola. You have various kind of expertise. Number one, you have people who know how to handle bodies, and those ones are offering support in that. You have transported a container, which is a mobile mortuary. That is also being used to hold the bodies. You have a communications desk, which is receiving and being able to process information. Anybody who feels that maybe they're coming there, they're looking for their kin, they come to that desk. Your people are able to ask them a couple of questions just to ascertain whether what they're looking for is likely to be here. 385 processed so far and on the list of people who are said to be missing. Yes. And are likely to be related to this particular incident.
Yes.
That's a huge number.
Very huge number.
And how many people are involved? How many Kenya Red Cross volunteers and officers are involved in this operation?
Bene, because apart from those services you have indicated, we also are providing psychosocial support to those family members. The anxiety, of course, is building. Those who already confirmed that their loved ones have been lost, those who have been rescued, they are also going through psychosocial support. So for the Kenya Red Cross is a huge operation, because you have those people who are supporting, in the exhumation. You have those seated on the desk. We also have our own internal way of trying to triangulate this information to determine eventually. And we already have some success stories where people have been linked to their families, which for us is the ultimate success, when you're able to link families with their loved ones that they thought was already lost. So it's a huge operation. I would put it over between 50 to 100 volunteers are on the ground supporting.
There are also many people who are being found and being rescued. How is the Red Cross supporting in that?
So there is, first of all, when someone is rescued, they have to, to be taken to hospital for examination. Some require treatment. You have seen people coming out and they are totally emaciated. They can hardly even eat. And then, you have, like I said, you have to do counseling. So that has to happen. And then those that need to be linked with their families, we have to support that process also to make sure that they are linked to their families.
Can you confirm the reports of mass graves?
Yes, we are finding graves that have, of course, most of the graves that are being dug out have more than one person. That's a fact. So you would find 5, 10. There's even one which had like 17 bodies. So the graves, the graves, yes, have more than one body. I think that qualifies to not be the normal grave that we are used to, because we used to just bring one person per grave. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing this simple mathematics, Peter, and just looking at the numbers that you're talking about in terms of those who would have come forward to say that a member of their family may be missing and is linked from what they believe to this incident, and then talking about what you're talking about now, and then just looking at the vastness of this particular area in terms of, this is already a disaster, but in terms of extremities here, it's very possible for things to get a lot worse in terms of the numbers and in terms of the land area that we're looking at, in terms of preparedness to deal with what could be the situation. How prepared are we, and how prepared ought we to be when it comes to prepare? Because this is a reality. 110 is astronomical in terms of what we're talking about. But just from what you're saying, 385 unknown. Look how big this area is. We've not the security, the agencies on the ground, in as much as they're working night and day on this thing, have not started to scratch the surface when it comes to the area. How prepared does everybody need to be right now for that potential reality that these numbers could quadruple?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. How are we prepared? First of all, like I said, we don't want to assume or to make a conclusion that the 385 people are probably all there, because you see, these reports are based on the last information that the family members have about this person. So if the last information they have about this person is that they were members of this, let me just call it a church or a group, then they will report it so, but it doesn't always mean that person, was still there. And it is, we hope that many of these, that at least 385 people are actually found alive. That is our hope, that is the case. But as the process goes on, we are continuing to then now prepare, put contingency measures in plan. Should the situation continue, I'm sure working with government and other agencies, we would find a way of handling, especially if there were more bodies. Because the one that we have on the ground can handle up to 300. that mobile container. But we hope that other processes will also take on as we identify those that have already been exhumed. So as we continue to deal with the situation, I think more contingency measures are being put in place now. We see the security agencies have stepped up their operation. They've really now taken over. The Minister of Interior is there. The county government is also, working at how to handle the situation should it get worse than it is. Yeah.
You talk about the social support that you offer victims and families in situations of disaster. How do you support the Red Cross volunteers and staff? Because they deal with these things and those are not easy situations.
Yes, Eric, that is another very good question. Now there is a Red Cross volunteer there who've probably exhumed, who've probably handled 50 bodies.
Yep.
And they are also human. So they also go through some of these traumas. Mental health is a major problem a major issue in the country, and this is one area that Kenya Red Cross has invested heavily. We have a mental health department that is working with our volunteers to make sure that in any situation like this, there is always these debriefs, and they have to go through the situation. They have to get support while at work and after the operation. So that has been put in place. But even before that, when you signed up as a Red Cross volunteer, there are a number of trainings and processes that you have to go through. You are not going to register today and we take you to a scene like Shakahola. No. There are those people who've been trained and who've been counseled, and they can deal with that situation. But even after, the debrief ensures that these volunteers are supported, that they are able to recover, and that they do not unnecessarily suffer the consequences of having to deal with some of these grisly situations that they find themselves in.
Have there been situations where a Red Cross volunteer or somebody who's worked with the Red Cross for long has actually gotten to a level where you need to give them more specialized support because of the trauma? We have had situations where people go through that, and that is one of the reasons that has informed Red Cross investing heavily in mental health, both physical counseling, telecounseling, to make sure that we support both our volunteers and the communities that we support. I want to take us back to the conversation that CT had asked earlier in terms of the interlinkage between the Kenya Red Cross Society and the government and government agencies. All right. So, the Kenya Red Cross Society established in the Kenya Red Cross Society Act to come in and support government in all these kind of operations. But over the years, and we've talked about this on the show before, we see like it's the Kenya Red Cross that has the job of addressing disasters, whether it's flooding like we talked about, whether it's fire disasters, whether it's terror attacks, whether it's cases like this of Shakahola. All these areas or buildings collapsing, we see the Kenya Red Cross there first. We see the Kenya Red Cross there staying longest, staying until they're the last ones to leave, and we don't have any structured government disaster response and preparedness mechanism. How is this affecting the operations of the Kenya Red Cross? Because you're not funded by government, you're not taxpayer funded. You raise your money from other quarters, but the ones who are funded by the taxpayer don't have any structure of addressing disasters. Does this impact the Kenya Red Cross negatively?
No, it doesn't impact it as negatively. In fact, let me say, if we didn't arrive there first and leave there last, we would be failing the people of Kenya, because it is the people of Kenya that we exist to serve as a national society. And we have we coordinate very closely with government, and it's not like we are taking the space that somebody else should be doing. From where we sit, we are just doing our job, and we spend a lot of time and resources preparing for this. Government used to give, Red Cross some money. It still does give Red Cross money, by the way, for a lot of these disasters. Last year, when we were doing the drought response, we received funding, for the livestock offtake to do that. We've received money to support the flood affected victims, especially around 2018. So there are many areas that we collaborate and receive support from government to be able to step in and help. And for us, that is how it should be.
Peter, you're being modest, okay? I'm just going to push you to the corner here. City has raised this matter before, okay? And you said, look, we the taxpayers are paying tax and expecting that in incidences such as this, a structured government framework is going to be able to respond. We don't have that. In areas where there are disasters, you have seen committees being formed. So we had a disaster management committee nestled in the Ministry of Interior. It stays, it comes, it goes. It's not sure who's the commander on the ground. There's a bill for disaster management authority that has been sitting since the 11th Parliament, has not moved. 12th Parliament. We are now in the 13th Parliament. We don't have a body that addresses disasters and prepares for disasters in this country. The Kenya Red Cross is sort of the one that is outsourced to handle those other matters. City has said it before. Mm-hmm. Why not then convert the Kenya Red Cross Society into our National Disaster Management Authority? And we know that X percentage of our budget that goes to disaster response
goes directly to the Red Cross.
Yes.
We do not have to convert Kenya Red Cross into the government arm of disaster management because it already is. Like I have said earlier, is that we, our mandate is to work auxiliary to government. So perhaps, government, we don't have a problem, working, with government in that sense.
There's a contingency fund. Senior City, there's an amount in the budget at national level, at county level, that is to respond to disasters. This money does not come to the Kenya Red Cross. When there's a disaster, the county government or the national government mobilizes its own resources and then creates an ad hoc team to address that. Those people are not experienced. Those people do not know what they're doing. The people who know what they're doing come, and they're supported by running a bomber hotel and getting other well-wishers to support them. City, let City say what I'm trying to say. He'll say it better because he said it many times before.
I don't know, before City comes in, one of the things that we've been doing, especially since devolution started, and our auxiliary role is both at national and at county government. So with many of these county governments, we've actually worked on disaster frameworks. For several governments, I've mentioned Samburu, Isiolo, so that they, at their level, we can. It's actually supposed to really define more effectively how Kenya Red Cross and the county government can actually, collaborate in addressing disasters. There is not going to be a time when we would say that now Red Cross has to step aside because government has. Indeed, some of these things are so huge. So, we are on a journey to make sure that we can collaborate more effectively, both at the national government and with the county governments that we are also auxiliary to at that level. The City, maybe I've answered the question you wanted to ask.
What you've done is sugar-coated the matter and giving us the impression that because the Red Cross is there, the government is fully represented, and we're saying it is not. Why we're saying it is not is because when you look at government, the budgets that governments have, the budget that this country of ours, Kenya, has, and you look at how we deal with disasters, because what we're dealing now in Shakahola is a disaster. If it's a drought, the government appeals to citizens. Citizens come through. We need to do. Now, when you have cyclical issues like droughts, floods, this is new at this scale. But it's a disaster nonetheless.
Yes.
Surely, the contingency fund that Eric talks about shows that the government understood that something untoward may happen and we're not prepared. So let's just put money aside so that when such a thing happens, at least we know how to begin. But now, before the Red Cross comes in, or when the Red Cross comes in, if I'm to believe what you're saying that when the Red Cross comes in, the government has come in and given the Red Cross funds and has given the Red Cross the push that the Red Cross needs to take care of this operation fully. And we're saying that is not true. It is not a situation in which we want to bash the government. We are merely stating the facts that the government and its organs and its agencies that are supposed to deal with disaster are woefully inadequate, meaning every time there's a problem, they are caught flat-footed. That's really what we are saying. Because if they were not caught flat-footed, then we would see what they were doing. Even this thing that we're discussing here, let's forget disaster management within the government. Everything that you are hearing and reading is that the information about what was going on was known. It's not as though all of a sudden 6,000 followers appeared, people started dying, and within 1 week there are all these graves. No, that's not what happened. This has been going on for quite some time. Now, who is supposed to be the vanguard? Who is supposed to protect the citizen? It's the government, not the Red Cross. So, when you find gaps and you state that these are gaps, it is not that you are anti-government. You're simply saying there are gaps. We are not pointing to things which don't exist. We're just saying they exist, and here they are.
So to make a connection between the two, is there an advisory role then that the Red Cross plays when it then comes to governments? Because it's not just the government of Kenya, for example.
Yep.
Other governments around the world. Is there an advisory role that is played and said, look, folks, you ought to, I know already that you're saying that because we've seen it. Through 3 parliaments, there has been the clamour for a disaster management authority to be established, right? For, in the case of an emergency, for certain things to be done. Because the Red Cross is in the business of providing care care and support during emergencies or during disasters, is there an advisory role? Because at the end of the day, it's to help. Because I really shudder to think that if the intervention of the Red Cross had not come in certain things that we've seen, what would have happened otherwise? So is there an advisory role that is played where you say, look, guys, these are certain things that you must have in place regardless of... Because an emergency, by definition, does not give you time to prepare. Right?
All right.
So are there things that you say, look, you need to have this in place so that you can then, it's like people who live in tornado-prone areas in the United States, their houses must have certain things so that when it happens, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Let me explain something. you know what Ndu is saying, yeah?
Yes.
Japan is earthquake prone. They know. Japan as a country with its many islands, they're earthquake prone. So you know what they've done over years? The engineers, the architects have come up with structures, building materials that are pliable to the movement that are brought about by earthquakes. So you have an earthquake, the building sort of does a little jig and then it stays right there. Okay? Now that's the government intervening and government ensuring that something which they know can have disastrous consequences are dealt with. It's really not complicated.
Yeah.
Okay? How do you have a region like, say, what we call the ASAL areas, which we know are the areas where we have our largest ranches, where we have, okay? How do you have a situation where when you know we have droughts and we keep having them, we cannot point to a place which the government has set up to say that in the event of such a drought, I'm putting it simply, no technical terms here, farmers, herdsmen, people who have livestock can go there. It's, should we say, like a hospital, a resting place for recovery for cattle, a place where cattle can feed and know that when in the absence of that, what do? People then drive their cows to private ranches. And that creates yet another problem. And then another story arises. We are simply saying there are matters which in and of themselves are actually fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
And what the Red Cross is doing is highlighted in our minds, in my mind, specifically because what they are doing is what they set out to do. But if the government was also doing what they are supposed to do, believe me, some of these so-called disasters would be infinitely lessened.
There would not be disasters.
Yes.
There will probably be disasters, but for us, the impact, especially on human life and property, would probably be less.
Yes.
If we prepare with the disaster, if we prepare well and for prevention, if we prepare well to respond, we are able to minimize the loss. But again, I think all the questions that you're asking are valid, except that the person in the hot seat may not have answers for you.
No, we don't expect you to have the answers.
No, have answers, but they are food for thought.
Yes. It's not about you having the answers at the Kenya Red Cross, because you play your role, and it's an auxiliary role. This is a supplementary role. It cannot be the main role. What we are saying is we see the Kenya Red Cross playing the main role in disaster response, the main role in disaster preparedness. And maybe what you ought to do is go and tell the board is, you know what, people, how best can we engage with the government so that then the government we can feed a lot of support to the government for them to be better prepared.
She asked a very pertinent question, which I won't let go, around the advisory role. We sit in many of these committees and engagements with government, and when we have views on how things should we engage, and we provide our technical expertise. Remember, we have been at it for over 160 years as a Red Cross movement. So that is where we are. But of course, I know the time is done. You remember, we aren't just dealing with that. We are dealing with, we're also supporting the Sudan evacuation, which we didn't get time to talk about. And we also have a cholera issue across the country. You talked about
the immunization.
Health, immunization. Please, if you have a chance, let me echo that. And please get immunized to live a healthy life.
Peter Boal, thank you very much for joining us. Peter is the communications manager at the Kenya Red Cross Society. We'll be talking about the disaster response and preparedness and response in this country. How well are we prepared for disasters? The Kenya Red Cross has been doing a lot. 9 a.m.
Pastor Mackenzie is currently being held by authorities on allegations of driving his followers to death by preaching that starvation was the only path to God, following the discovery of dozens of bodies buried in Shakahola forest near the coastal town of Malindi. The move comes after it emerged that the leader of Good News International Ministries has been arrested before on similar allegations before being released by the courts, a discovery that has angered most Kenyans and leaders as the number of victims linked to a suspected starvation cult rose to 103 Thursday following the exhumation of 5 bodies. A section of leaders and Kenyans have questioned why Mackenzie got away easy despite the weight of his alleged crime, with some speculating that some judicial officers and security agents could have been bribed by the preacher. And Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua is in Spain for bilateral talks. In a statement, Mutua said he's in the country to woo investors and tourists to Kenya. He said he had signed a memorandum of understanding with Spain's Minister for Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation, Jose Manuel Alvarez, that will see Kenyans trained Spanish languages to enhance Spanish as a major language of study in Kenya and open up opportunities for Kenyan youth abroad. Mutua said they also discussed various partnerships which include funds for improving Kenya's railway system and roads, in particular an overpass at Junction Mall area along Ngong Road. They also reviewed trade partnership and discussed how Kenyans can sell their products in Spain. And Kenya's economy is expected to grow by 6.1% in 2023 and maintain that momentum over the medium term. During a special meeting at State House Nairobi, it emerged that leading indicators show strong performance of the Kenyan economy in the first quarter of 2023, reflecting robust activity in the service sector and also in the wholesale and retail trade, accommodation and food services, education and information and communication. According to the dispatch from Cabinet, the growth outlook will be supported by a broad-based sector growth, including continued strong performance of the services sector and recoveries in agriculture, while the public sector consolidates. From the expenditure perspective, private consumption is expected to support aggregate demand, supported by the ongoing labour market recovery, improved consumer confidence and resilient remittances. And the Kenyan Marine and Fisheries Research Institute is constructing a 40 million shillings wastewater treatment project to conserve the marine ecosystem in Mikindani, Mombasa County. The European Union-funded project is set to improve the quality of Chuda Creek, which has degraded mangroves due to human activities. Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute Director General James Njiru noted that constructed wetlands are cost-effective and the sewer will flow through gravity. He noted that constructed wetlands are cost-effective and the sewer line will help. And a Russian missile strike on the southern Ukrainian city of Mykolaiv early Thursday killed one person and injured 23 others. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Telegram app that Russia bombarded Mykolaiv with 4 caliber missiles launched from the Black Sea. The strike damaged homes and an apartment building. Russia denies targeting civilians, saying it attacks military targets. And the Sudanese army pounded paramilitaries in the capital Khartoum with airstrikes while deadly fighting fled in Darfur despite a U.S. brokered ceasefire. The army had earlier hinted that it had agreed to talks in Juba, the capital of neighboring South Sudan, on extending the 3-day truce which expires today at the initiative of IGAD, the East African Regional Bloc. There have been multiple truce efforts since fighting broke out in April 15th between Sudan's regular army led by General Abdel Fattah el-Burhan and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces commanded by his deputy-turned-rival Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. All have failed. The fighting has continued despite the U.S. brokered ceasefire that took effect Tuesday, with warplanes patrolling the skies over the capital's northern suburbs as fighters on the ground have exchanged artillery and heavy machine gunfire. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, after a few minutes past 9 o'clock, a little bit of traffic here and there. It's not been too busy a Friday and things have been kept to a dull roar. On the northern bypass, a little bit still as you're trying to then connect with the Limuru Road, but even that is not too bad. The most of it right now is on Uhuru Highway, getting closer towards Westlands. Apart from that, you'll get in and out of the city without too much of an issue. Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Alrighty,
it's the Situation Room.
Good morning. Welcome to the final hour of the Situation Room this week. Oh no, the final hour of the Situation Room this is April.
This month.
Yes, can you imagine that?
Yep.
Just like that.
Yeah,
we come to the
like
end.
That.
Just like that. Sasa, CT.
Yes, please.
Ukituanzia na the day's proverb hakuna shida. But before you do that, let me remind everybody why they need to walk into Kingdom Bank countrywide, anywhere, anytime. Okay? And the anytime is like today. When the branches are open, now they're open, you walk in there and tell them, nataka kusonga mbele na Kingdom Bank. They said, oh, welcome. We've been waiting for you. Karibu sana. Keti hapa chini. Utakunywa nini? Kahawa, chai, maziwa, cocoa, Milo, Bonvita. What's the other thing?
Coffee.
Drinking chocolate. Unataka nini?
Chai wa maziwa mzito.
Ama unataka nylon. Unataka nini? Na hapa kuna croissant. Those are things that call
croissant. Ile croissant,
Ile croissant.
Croissant, ile croissant.
It's a bit. I give you mapocho as you sit down there. They explain things to you. You know how you can put money into a savings account, a fixed deposit account, a savings account, or a junior savings account. From as little as 50,000 shillings, you start earning interest, up to 10% in interest. Just walk into any of those branches. If you can't walk into the branches, or you don't know where the nearest branch is, just call them 0709 881300. That's 0709 881300. Songambele na Kingdom Bank, regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. City, the proverb from Yamasukuru.
Yes, my friend, that is where the proverb is from. He who talks incessantly talks nonsense.
Guy.
Remember, it's not talks incessantly. And that doesn't mean talk a lot. Incessantly means talk a lot continuously. You can talk a lot, but you take a break.
Talk without ceasing.
Yes.
Talk.
What? Yes, you when you're a motor mouth. Okay, who you man? Yes.
Hiyo mambo yote. Okay. Now, a lot has happened this week in terms of we've seen the Shakahola and what's happening in Shakahola. That revelation by the Red Cross that they have actually processed 385 people who have reported who've been reported missing.
Yes.
That's a huge number. 385.
It's a colossal number, my friend.
Is a very, very big number. And one can only hope that we actually do not end up with 385 bodies coming out of this.
We have already exhumed 110 bodies.
Yeah.
If you do the maths, we are shy 278.
Wow. No, man. Meanwhile, the economy is growing, Ndu, like you were telling us. It's projected to grow by 6%.
6.1, please.
6.1% this year.
Who is saying this?
Who's saying?
Okay, let me tell you.
You look for it. Page 19 of the Standard.
It's right here.
Guy.
Why are you sad? It's a good thing. Economy can grow.
What is a good thing? That it has been stated? Or that we are hoping.
Now imagine if it has been stated and then it actually grows. Double whammy, man. See, these are good
when you're
things.
told about economic growth in this country, you have to ask what are the indicators? How do we know the economy is growing? Beyond it being stated that it is growing.
Acha nikwambie indicators in ile. Sindio?
Hebu tuambie
Page
indicators.
19 nakujanga after what number? 18.
After the buzz.
Sindio?
Pulse.
State projects economy to grow by 6.1%. There is robust activity in the service sector and also in the wholesale and retail trade. So these are the indicators, CT, that you're talking about. What would fuel or inform this statement? What fuels or informs that is that there is robust activity in the wholesale and retail trade. It also then remains to be seen whether KRA will hit the target of this current financial year. But that notwithstanding, the government has projected the economy will grow at a rate of 6% in the first quarter of 20-something, the number I cannot see, 2023, okay? First quarter, sasa inaisha. And it is expected to maintain the momentum over the medium term. Now, again, some of the leading indicators show a strong performance of the economy in the first quarter of 2023, reflecting robust activity in the service sector and also in the wholesale and retail trade, accommodation and food services, education and information and communication. The World Bank recently forecast that Kenya's economy will expand at 5.2% and 5.3% in 2024 and 2023 respectively. 2025 respectively. Revenue collection is projected at 0.893 billion shillings, at 78% of the GDP in the financial year 2023-2024, an increase from the financial year 2022-2023, which stands at 2.5 billion, and expected to rise further to 4.1 billion by the year 2026-2027. So this is where all these projections are coming from. It is expected that expenditure will be at 3.5 billion in 2023-2024, And it will include recurrent expenditure, which comprises 15.2% of the GDP. So they're looking at all these things vis-a-vis spending, vis-a-vis what the projections are until 2027. And they've said, look, we're on an upward trajectory here and things are going to look better in the medium term.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good thing.
That is a possibility.
Look, all the indicators. It's like you're looking at the sky, right?
Yeah.
And you see this overcast.
And this is by a third party.
Wait now. You see it's overcast. It's a bit dark. And the clouds, those are called cumulus clouds. Now, they're not white and puffy. They are dark. What's indicators that it's going to what?
Yeah.
It's going to rain. And then the winds are blowing. And then there's a little bit of moisture in the air. The indicators are there will be some downpour at some point. It's going to rain.
Can only get better.
So now they're saying, with all of these things that we're seeing, retail market, people are in the service industry is booming, food, communication, etc., it can only mean, and then when you take all these numbers and you put them against each other, it can only mean that the economy will grow.
So was the writer of that article trying to give us a lesson in economics?
Not the writer of the article.
Government.
The World Bank.
People are telling you, based on this is what we expect.
No.
The cabinet met yesterday and bullishly also went with the same words of the World Bank. Kenya's economy is expected to grow by 6.1% in 2023 and maintain that momentum of the medium term. Leading indicators are what Ndu has just read for us. Those ones include wholesale and retail, the service sector, accommodation and food services, education, and information and communication. The growth outlook will be supported by a broad-based sector growth, including continued strong performance of the service sector, recoveries in agriculture, public sector consolidation. From the expenditure perspectives, private consumption is expected to support aggregate demand, supported by the ongoing labor market, recovery, improved consumer confidence, and resilient remittances.
That's theory. It's all theory. It's absolute theory.
So
whether it's World Bank, whether it's world, you give it any term, world, whatever you want to call it.
What practical thing do you have to counter this?
It's very simple.
Yes.
Are we growing our productivity? It's not complicated. Where productivity means you have a situation in the country where all the indicators, I'm using the word indicator here, okay? Whether it is our industry, whether it's our commercial sector, whether it's the agricultural sector, okay? All these units of production are functioning. Those who have labor to offer in the economy can find a place where that labor can be rewarded. And if the numbers are growing, then it means that not only is productivity growing, people then have the means to actually utilize what is being produced, meaning they can buy. Okay? And if this goes on over a long period of time and there is that increase in productivity, then you are certain that the economy can grow. So, what makes the economy grow? All these monies, we had an economist telling us this. When we say we borrow money for development, that's what it's supposed to spur. That increase in productivity, which leads to what we're calling growth, meaning the money comes in, we are building roads. While we're building roads, industries that deal with materials have more things to sell, people, and it goes on and on and on. Now, where in the economy are we saying that we are seeing this happen so that this growth that we're talking about can actually be witnessed? Where?
Robust activity in the service sector.
Where?
And also in the wholesale and retail trade. Accommodation and food services. Education and ICT. Are you saying you have not seen the development of new hotels and new accommodation places in the country city?
No. What I have seen...
Have you seen new hotels and accommodation places opening?
In the last few years, yes. In the... a couple of years ago? Yes, I have. But what I've also heard is the hue and cry of there isn't enough business, people trying to sell their businesses. The other day we were reading about a food chain called Java. And the issue is the owners want to sell.
But there's nobody to buy.
Precisely.
Because of their own business.
Yes, because people aren't eating. And unless people eat or drink, there is no money. And the person who wants to buy is seeing, people are not, the uptake of this business is not good. So what am I buying it for?
People are eating, CT. The chain has not shut down.
No, it hasn't.
The chain is a going concern.
I am not saying it is not.
The sellers are looking for a certain amount.
Yes, you know what that certain amount means?
The buyers are not willing to part with that certain amount.
Eric, the only reason why buyers are willing to part with a certain amount is when they can see a return on their investment.
Yeah.
If they're not seeing it, it doesn't mean it is going down. It just means it is not making as much money as it could.
It also could mean that you're asking for money that is way beyond how much you're making.
Yes, there's that possibility.
So that I could look at it and say, yes, you're making money, but you're making 100. So sell this thing to me at 105. Now, if you come and ask for 200, unaniuzia nini goodwill?
Okay. Let's talk generically, because I really don't know the financial details of this
that particular transaction.
All right?
Yes.
Okay. Generically speaking, anything that is considered valuable and is making money, there'll be people competing to buy it. Simply because they can see where it is going. For the longest time, the one investment that Kenyans have always believed in is land. That's before all the conmen, all the charlatans came into this particular industry and would be selling you a pie in the sky, literally, whereas you thought you were actually being sold land. That when you received the piece of paper called a title deed, you find there are 10 of you on that same plot. Before that happened, it was a good investment. You know why? We're a country where the population is continuously increasing. So the pressure on land will continue increasing. So the value, serious, simple, supply, demand. Now, are we seeing the sector in this country which represents the largest number of people, what we call the hidden economy according to this same World Bank, what we call the informal sector as we call it, do we see an increase in people joining it? The answer is yes. But do we see the role that they're playing in terms of building the economy, because they are producers? There is productivity. What increases productivity is if the demand increases. Do you see an increased demand in their services? I use Ubers every single day. Every single day. I mean, Uber here is generic for a cab every single day. And the story I'm being told, an example I was told in the last few days by people who have brought me or taken me from work, said, you know, this thing of people not being paid a salary is affecting us. So I asked, what do you mean? Said, I normally park my vehicle at this place, place A. And I am guaranteed that by around midday when I start work at 7, I have collected, say, 3,000 shillings. That's what I've earned. I said, why? He said, because people want to travel. He said, we have to associate this non-payment of salaries to this, because now I have picked you up at 2 o'clock. I have barely made 1,500 shillings. And I'm having to look for work where I normally do not look for work. Okay? And I said, but does it happen one day? He said, no, it has happened now for the last 2 weeks. And it is new. I said, really? So you're assuming when people are paid? He said, I do this business, I've been at it for 4 years. This is what someone told me. I get to understand the patterns. All I'm saying is, they are simple indicators of growth. And it isn't words being uttered by the World Bank. Within the country, do we see people spending money or people willing to spend? Willingness may be there, but is there enough
ability?
Money? Yes, precisely. Precisely.
They may be willing.
They may even want to.
But they're not able.
to.
Now, based on that, because of, that preamble, we, the government of Kenya, have therefore said, okay, the cabinet said, revenue collection for the next financial year is projected to be at 2.89 trillion shillings. All right? 2.89 trillion shillings for the next financial year. That begins in July and ends on June 30th next year. That will be a 17.8% of GDP, an increase from the current financial year, which stands at 2.5 billion shillings, and is expected to grow further to 4.19 billion shillings by 2027. Are we together? Yep. So basically, the government is saying, how much we hope to need next year? It's going to be a lot more. We're going to raise a lot of money in terms of revenue. For that reason, we can now then say that the budget for the next financial year is going to be 3.6 trillion shillings, which is only 22% of our GDP. Recurrent expenditure is going to be 2.5 trillion shillings, and development is going to be 689 billion shillings. 2.5 trillion on recurrent expenditure, which includes like what Jimmy Wanjigi was telling us yesterday, all those things, salaries and allowances, operations and maintenance, pay debts. What are the other things that we're doing? Send money to counties.
Yeah, OPEX, fueling vehicles.
Loads to small to things, okay? All that is just going to be 2.5 trillion shillings, while development money is going to be 689 billion shillings.
Isn't something a bit off there?
Now, we expect to raise 2.8 trillion shillings. We expect to spend 2.5 trillion shillings on recurrent. That leaves us about 300 billion. We also have a 600 billion shillings budget for development. So the amount that is expected then to be borrowed in terms of the deficits is only going to be 663 billion shillings that will be borrowed to finance this budget. And that is not much, because the government is saying, in fact, this is going to be far less than the current financial year. This one, we had inherited the handshake, blah, 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 blah. Handshake, the debt for this financial year is 1.12 trillion shillings.
And?
The deficit that has been bridged by debt. Mm-hmm. Remember, this 1.12 trillion shillings is not what was in the budget. The budget deficit in the last financial year was 800 billion shillings.
Yes.
But because of the way things are looking, they are going to have to borrow 1.12 trillion shillings to cover the budget deficit.
Yes.
Okay? These guys are saying our deficit is only 600 billion shillings. I mean, it's 5 and less than this 1.12, I mean, it's half of it. The expectation then is if they don't meet any of their targets in terms of Nini, they will borrow much more.
Why don't I just play the prophet and state categorically that they will not meet the target and we will borrow more?
This is the start thing, and these are the indicators. Even when we were listening to Jimmy Wanjigi yesterday, when we were listening to The Economist on Wednesday, these are the things that we hear. When you listen then to members of parliament, you ask them the question, and they're like, no. We are politicians.
As though we don't know.
It gets to a point where you ask yourself, what on earth is...
The thing that this government, in my mind, is right about, but the way it is presented, it comes out in my mind as though they are whining, and yet what they're saying, what they're trying to say is actually true. You see, this government isn't a stand-alone government. And the processes and activities of governments are a continuum. There are very many things you genuinely inherit. Like the debt. You will inherit a debt.
It's almost expected.
You will inherit a debt.
Yeah.
If things were a certain way, whether they were good, whether they were helpful, you will inherit them. It's a simple reality. Now, what we then have to look at is, given what you inherited, what have you done? If you inherited a bad situation, has it become worse? Not have you made it worse. Has it become worse? And if it has, what is it that has made it become worse?
Or what have you done to make it better?
Yeah. No blame is being apportioned here.
Yeah.
So what is going on? Now, it is clear, without a shadow of a doubt, that we have a ton of problems. And this tonnage is not decreasing from everything we hear. Okay? So when somebody comes up and tells us that they have these rosy projections, we've been hearing those rosy projections for such a long time, and then the reality comes and slaps you back into its orbit and tells you, excuse me, wake up.
I'm here.
Yes, I've heard what was said, but reality, am telling you I'm here and this is what I represent. So, if the reality is what we see it as, the question that has to be asked is what next? Now, unfortunately, reality is often tampered by something that we call the optics. Okay? If you have an agency whose main task is to collect money, and we see that the issues around it don't seem to be working as we ought to, or as it ought to.
They're not collecting what they have been.
No, they haven't. There could be reasons that are beyond the government. There may be things that the government has no control over. But again, that's where I bring in the discussion of the optics. If we had a Commissioner General, are they called Commissioner Generals?
Which ones?
Of what?
The head of KRA.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a Commissioner General, and under his watch, we seem to have been meeting targets which were set. Then they are not there. We will automatically say, now that this person has gone, and there are people whom they work with, they have gone. Yes, it is. I'm talking optics. It may have nothing. Whatever you're dealing with may have nothing to do with that, but the optics, unfortunately, come into play in that discussion.
You know, the beef I have is, and even in the previous administration, is when the government does not tell the truth.
You kept saying this over and over, and do joined you and said, please just tell us the truth.
Just speak the truth.
And then we know what to do from there.
We are in end of April. This financial year has 2 months to go.
Yep.
Okay? In March, just like we were being told here by Jimmy the other day, yesterday, and we were told by Churchill on Wednesday, how much had been reported as having been collected by KRA by the end of March was 1.5 trillion shillings.
That's what we're told.
That's what KRA says.
Yes.
If you check the Exchequer, the central bank, the Exchequer report is 1.3 trillion shillings has been collected. Remember, please, the target for this year is 2.4 trillion shillings. By March, they've collected 1.3 trillion shillings with 3 months to the end of the year.
So in these 3 months, are we thinking they're going to collect another trillion?
How?
How is it going to happen?
Where from?
They're only at 58% of the revenue projection, the basis of which formed a budget of 3.2 trillion shillings. Okay?
Yes.
They have not been able to. So if they cannot really collect a trillion in 3 months' time, how can this government say, you know what, because the revenue projection for this year was 2.4 trillion shillings, now in fact we're going to do this, we're going to increase the revenue projection for next year to 2.8 trillion shillings, and on that basis we are going to spend 3.6 trillion. What madness is this?
It's called magic thinking, brother. That's what it's called, magic thinking.
I almost hear them saying, and this is the thing, that sure, we know that we've not collected as much as we ought to. Remember, before that, 2 years ago, at around this very same time, the World Bank came in, and this is under the previous administration, say whatever you like, but the World Bank came in to do what? To give Kenya, very basically, to give Kenya money. And what did that do? It allowed the country to make up for its budget. There was no money to complete what had been allocated in the budget because there was no money to do so. World Bank came in, stepped up, met budget requirements. Okay, now here we are, and we're saying that the economy in this quarter, right, is doing well, and these are the indicators: food, communication, etc. Service industry is robust, and because of that, this is what they've said. Because of that, we can see it going well. In spite of the fact that the collection agency will not collect what it's supposed to. So they're saying, yes, we can see that this 1 trillion, we're not going to get it in the next 3 months. But look at what's happening in the economy. It will actually help us be able to meet up.
And yet the meeting up requires money.
Thank you very much. And that's the problem. That we can say all these nice and rosy things, but the truth of the matter is that you're not talking to people who are blind. You're not talking to a country of individuals who are bereft of their senses. They know exactly what is going on. We can see. So it's nice to have all the policy documents and all the hoity-toity folks in their grey suits and talk about these things. But the truth of the matter is that things are not good.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So why is it that governments want to continue telling people, it's like the folks who are sitting on the Titanic playing music and the thing is sinking. Why do you want to do that? To keep people mesmerized by this feeling that everything is okay when the ship is sinking?
They're basically coming to us and saying, we'll be arriving in New York in give or take another 3-4 days.
You're going down. Why do you do that?
Bloody vessel is not moving.
It's moving, my friend, but it's going down.
Folks,
be all right.
According to our projection, New York will be there.
Meanwhile, you're nowhere. Hey.
And here they are now. I looked at this cabinet dispatch yesterday and I was like, wait a minute. 28 people sat around a table.
That's what I'm saying. Those in their suits.
And they said, this is what we're going to do.
We're going to tell Kenyans. No. Not what we're going to do, Eric. You see the way we're saying things are not
They're
good.
going to do it, and then they're also going to tell. And this is how they're going to sell it to Kenyans.
This is how we're going to couch it to the Kenyans. We know what's going on, but guys, and this is what I'm saying. Whoever faltered by saying the real situation as it is, and then saying, folks, this is the hole, this is how deep it is, and this is how we're going to dig ourselves out of it. But you know what's going on now? This is the hole. Now, while we're in this hole, how about we get a tattered couch? You sit in this hole here, you prepare a meal, we're in this hole, and let's just keep digging deeper.
Madness City. The World Immunization Week ends on Sunday, the 30th of April.
It does.
And the entirety of this week, the three partners, who are they? The Ministry of Health,
WHO, and UNICEF. Yes.
What's their message?
The message is really very simple, straightforward. We are highlighting matters vaccine. And we are saying we want to increase your knowledge of vaccines in this week. Why? So that you can understand what they do. It provides immunity, meaning it protects from diseases. It protects future generations. It saves time, it saves lives. Now, vaccines have been recommended by the Ministry of Health, and they are available. And they are free of charge. Now, they are also saying, please understand that the array of vaccines that are available is more than you probably previously knew. We've gone beyond that. We're talking about PCV vaccines. We're talking about rotavirus vaccines. We're talking about malaria vaccines. We're talking about HPV vaccines. You all heard of COVID. We're talking about COVID vaccines. In addition to the vaccines that you've known about, vaccines that you normally assumed were for children. No, vaccines for the whole family. They are available, they are free, and they are for your benefit. Get informed and then take action and ensure that you prepare and give yourself the blessings of a healthy and long life.
Indeed. Let's take a look at the traffic. Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, you know it's
sugar and spice.
Great vibes, conversations, a lot of humor. I like to say we don't give an F, we give 3 Fs.
You and I are in this relationship, so it is me to tell you who we are.
When you ask a chick, how many guys have you been with? She's like, including you. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock. If I were you, I'd tune in to Spice FM 94.4.
I want you on my team.
So does everybody else. Yeah. This is 00 Direct. Woman host, music by women and only women guest.
If COVID could mutate and evolve 6 times over the last 2 years, how many versions of yourself have emerged in the last 2 years?
Do not, and you don't have to give anything to get ahead. All you have to do is give out and show out your talent.
Catch 00 Direct every Saturday from 10 a.m. on Spice FM.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is one of the best ways to spend a Saturday.
Well, right, the rain is coming down in some parts. You'll see that for most part of the morning. And so that means that traffic stops on certain parts. The Eastern Bypass, a little bit of it here and there, is connecting with Mombasa Road in a little bit, and the Thika Superhighway also just between the Drift and the Pangani underpass, some traffic there. Gong Road hasn't done too poorly today. James Gishuru also a little bit, then spilling over towards Wayaki Way. So we'll be out of it in no time from now, and probably pick up later on in the day. Throughout, talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Kenya Airways will now access more Chinese cities after the airline signed an interline agreement with China Southern Airlines. It will expand the two carriers' networks via Nairobi, Guangzhou and Shanghai with a single ticket and one baggage policy. In the deal, KQ customers will be able to access flights operated by the Chinese airlines on domestic routes. Absa Bank Kenya has appointed Abdi Mohammed as its new Chief Executive Officer after receiving regulatory approval from the Central Bank of Kenya. Mohammed takes over from Yusuf Omari, who has been serving in the capacity on an interim basis. He will join from Absa's Tanzania subsidiary, where he has been serving in the same role. Unilever has reported higher revenue in the first quarter as high inflation pushed the British consumer goods giant to hike prices. The maker of products ranging from Magnum ice cream and CIF surface cleaner to Dove soap said revenue increased 7% to 14.8 billion euros compared to the first 3 months of 2022. Unilever, like companies worldwide, is passing on higher costs to consumers as inflation stays stubbornly elevated. Nairobi's Skyline Global Trade Center has announced the launch of a campaign to celebrate the rich history of the capital city as the country commemorates 60 years of independence. The campaign, dubbed Migrate Nairobi, will commemorate the evolution and development of Nairobi since independence and celebrate the city's rich history by showcasing its people, architecture, landmarks, road networks, the rich culture, and so much more. The National Drought Management Authority is looking for a driver with a KCSE certificate and a valid driving license with at least 1 year experience in driving. Suitable candidates are required to send their CVs and cover letter by 30th of April 2023. Visit jobs.digger.co.ke for more information on these and other jobs. Digger Jobs, your credible and trusted jobs partner.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Yeah, on Spice FM across the country. Final what?
Week of quarter one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Final Friday of that month called
April.
And this is where we are coming and saying, okay, sasa mwezi na kuisha. Now that the month has come to an end, then what else? Now, yesterday the cabinet met, and the briefing that came from the cabinet to the public was, they sat to discuss the next financial year. This is a very important budget for them because it's a first Kenya Kwanza hustler budget. And so it was important that they sit down and say, this is where we start laying the foundations and the building blocks for the hustler administration and realization of all the promises that we made to the people of Kenya. The statutory timelines are set out in the law. They observed that and they discussed now the bill that's going to be taken to Parliament. This is how they're going to finance their budget. They looked at the projections and they project that the economy is actually going to grow by 6.1% in this year. This calendar year. They also talk about looking back at what happened in the last financial year. Remember, this financial year that ends in June, the budget for this year was 3.2 trillion shillings, is what was passed by Parliament last year. In the 3.2 trillion shillings, the sources of financing that 3.2 trillion shillings expenditure were two. One, tax revenues. And the projection was that in this financial year, we are going to raise 2.4 trillion shillings from taxes. And then the deficit, which is 3.2 minus 2.4, which is how much? It is 800 billion shillings, is going to come from borrowing domestically and internationally, both from the commercial markets and from bilateral and multilateral lenders. Sawa sawa? Sawa sawa. So they looked at that and said, now, because we are growing anyway, now let's look at our GDP. What we want to do is we want to spend the next financial year, we want to spend about 22.1% of our GDP. So we'll create a budget of 3.6 trillion shillings, an increase of 400 billion from the last financial year. How do we justify this? It's because we can actually even raise more revenues in the next financial year. How much do we want to raise? 2.8 trillion shillings. This year, the budget, the target was 2.4 trillion.
And the indicators
so the 400 billion shillings extra that we're talking about spending in the next financial year, we can collect from taxes.
And how can we collect from taxes is because we see that the activities in the economy are robust.
Yeah, we're going to grow by 6.1%.
So that's why we can justify a budget like this.
And we're looking at the revenue collection so far, and we're seeing we're doing well, okay? We are supposed to have collected 2.4 trillion shillings by the end of June.
We've collected...
As of 30th of March, they have collected 1.3 trillion shillings.
And we will just need another 3 months to collect another 1.1 trillion.
Okay. Yeah. It has taken us 3 quarters to collect 1.3 trillion. It's going to take us 1
3
quarter.
months to collect 1.1. Don't worry. Everything is going to be all right.
We're fine.
Wongo. Now, somebody's asked me, what benefit would it be for the government to tell the people of Kenya the truth? So now you're asking for the truth. What are you going to do with it?
How will it help you?
How will it help you if you know that actually things are very, very bad? How is it going to help you out of a situation? How will it help? If they tell you, okay, guys, here we are in the kitchen, and unfortunately, what is coming out of the kitchen is not what you expect. This is actually what we're able to cook and deliver to you. What are we talking about? Governance. What are we talking about? Who are you governing? The people of the country are here telling them that this is actually... And then when things get bad, how are you going to be able to explain yourself? People are all in this thing together. Tell them what's happening. In as much as you can say it's robust, let's just say the indicators are showing us that it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Then that's how you start that pull up your socks, tighten your belt narrative. Do it. Would you rather let people know what's happening now, or somewhere down the line, in the next, not too far, in the next 6 to 9 months, when things get blisteringly bad, is now when you say, actually, you know what? We're not going to be able to do this.
The truth doesn't work. It's basically saying you're taking your family to a place. Let's say you're paying rent, and the rent that you're paying currently is 100,000 shillings. Okay, from wherever you live, 100,000 shillings is the rent plus all these other things, or school fees. I don't know, those small things. You have a cologne here, small other things. All right, but 100 is for your rent. At work, you take a pay cut. Sawa, take a pay cut at work. You come home and tell people, I found a nice home, beautiful house, nice blah, 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 loans, blah, 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 nice neighborhood. It's only going for 120. Let's move. Yeah. You've taken a pay cut. You're coming and telling your family, we are moving from this 100K home to a 120K home per month.
Things are looking better. We're going to do better.
And in fact, today I had a meeting with my boss. My boss was telling me, that we are actually going to do very well. In fact, he's already positioning me so that, because the other guy is leaving, I'm going to get a promotion, and I'm the one who will take up that job. So because, there's a likelihood that, it's going to take a promotion, blah, 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 because to fill up that position. Okay? You and the boss and everybody knows that person's position is about to be declared redundant. So you're not going to fill a position that's been declared redundant. But you go to your family and tell them, we are moving.
In fact, we're living a good life.
We moved to that place for 120. Then we moved the school to this one. The school fees goes up by this much. I mean,
you've got it.
Good life.
You've got it, because we are going to reduce... we're going to improve on things. In fact, what we're going to do so that we can afford that house, we will reduce certain costs. There are certain things like, the schools that you children go to. There are schools nearby where we are going to, which same quality but cost less. Really, yes, better, cost less. And you go there and you find there's a 20,000 shillings increase in the fees.
But we're okay.
But we're fine because we're reducing cost. But we're paying 20,000 shillings
But I'm
more.
getting a promotion.
Yes.
I'm getting a promotion.
Yes. So if you study economics, just without too many flowers and too many details, and you don't get mathematical about it. Economics and the study of it revolves around a concept called scarcity, and how it is people who understand economics try to utilize these scarce resources to ensure that life for human beings in their space moves along reasonably well. And you talk about land, these are factors of production. You are talking about natural resources, you're talking about labor, you're talking about capital. Now, if you itemize these things and look at them, let's start with land. I like land. Are we optimally using the land we have in this country for purposes of production? Just a simple question. Are we utilizing it? Yes. Just take your mind there and ask yourself, we have land. Are we? Because it's a factor of production. We have something called human resource. We recently have a situation with the JSS and the health sector where we have more health providers trained, ready in the country than we have places for them. Same with the teachers. That is labor. We are calling it human resource. Are we optimally using the human resource that we have in the best way possible? Because they are part of the factors of production. You're talking about natural resources. We know we have oil. We hear of aquifers where there's water. We hear all these things. And they're in regions which we are told are arid or semi-arid. And then you're told, no, they're saline. And yet we know that there are desalination plants that actually use solar power. And those regions have more solar power than they know what to do with, meaning the natural solar power. So you keep asking, are we utilizing the resources that we have in the best possible way? Then you look at capital. Now, this one is tricky because capital doesn't necessarily have to mean money, but it is a factor of production. And without it, all the things we're talking about becomes a little tricky to move around. Are we moving it around in the best way possible? If we're reading in the papers that monies that are intended for certain things called dams. Now, dams are useful for something called irrigation. Irrigation is very useful for something called food production. If that money is then diverted to places where it shouldn't have been in the first place, for it to get into the budget, it means you proved your case and it was seen as viable. That is why money was allocated for it. That's how it works. If these are the stories we keep hearing, and we have these factors of production, which must be working in tandem to make the economy grow, and you find gaps, and you keep finding gaps. Now, when you throw in factors outside our control, like the exchange of the shilling to the dollar, which does a complete yo-yo and can throw things into a complete turnspill, and then you have COVID. But these are the realities that you must deal with. Then we have to ask the question, when you have a government that is running the country, which realities are they looking at when they're running the government? Because we live in the same country and we can see these realities. And we are hoping that they are the ones who will be able to manage these realities for us. And that's why when they tell us they have a wage bill, we sort of like say, okay, these are the people you brought in to help manage these things. Now, how then do you tell us that everything is going to improve when everything we see around us is telling us the complete opposite? So what are we supposed to believe? You know, an improvement means the situation I'm in gets better. Okay? People talk about the cost of food being lower. Forget the story of affordable. Forget this affordable story. Lower to the point where it can be afforded. Not, don't tell me it is 150. Who can afford the 150? If it can't be afforded, then it's not affordable.
It's not affordable.
Yes. Now, when these are the stories that represent our reality, even if there's economic growth, you have to ask, okay, so what really is this economic growth? Who is it for? Because economic growth is supposed to be a concept that is appreciated and felt by everybody who lives in the country.
Yeah, you're not going to say that it has grown and then this growth that you keep it for yourself and hide it under a bushel. No,
you actually can't.
You can't hide that kind of growth. Everybody's going to feel it. It's just like you say, if your staple then has become cheaper, that means everybody then will be able to afford it. That if you did an audit of everybody's home whereby they are buying, that you would find it, that they have been able to buy it. If they cannot buy it, it cannot be afforded. And that's what we're talking about. The economy cannot grow and then only a few people see it. No, everybody will see it. The indicators that you speak of will then be available for sight for everybody.
No, when you're told people are eating 1 meal a day as opposed to the 2 or 3 that they used to eat,
those are the indicators.
They're buying less. Yeah. So if they're buying less, what do you think happens to those who produce these things which are being bought less of? Everything around what we know and see in the economy does not point to a growth, unfortunately. When capital is available, it spurs what we call economic activity. When it grows, it means a larger number of people have money available to them because of this growth.
CT, why do you reckon that governments, in some cases, want to be so blasé with the truth or don't want to share what the real situation is. Because as I see governments who do, they seem to behave a little bit better or perform a little bit better.
You do not... Do you
Just
really,
a little bit.
Do you really know how profound your question is? It's very profound. And I'm saying it's profound because you ask me the question, so I will answer. There's something called a competing interest. Huh? When people say one thing and do something else, the something else is what they really want to do. This other thing they're saying is for you to just consume and feel it is okay. But they're doing something completely different. And that competing interest is then what manifested itself into the quagmire that we currently find ourselves in the country. That other thing, which they don't talk about. When people do what they say, you see change because they're actually doing what they've said.
Yep.
If they are saying things and they're not doing it, again, you don't see anything happening because they're not doing what they said they're going to do. It's really not that complicated. These governments that you speak of, they understand the concept of accountability. That's why you'll find someone stepping down because they've understood this is my job, and if I'm not doing it,
I need not be there.
No, I need not be there.
Yeah.
I understand my responsibility, and if I can't if I can't live up to it, then somebody else ought to do that job. When you have a people like the people of Kenya who are long-suffering, who are patient, and who are willing to give you a second and third and fourth chance, it appears that our political leaders then think they're ruling stupid people. People who can't think, people who can't see, people who can't understand. So they think that the only thing they can do is to continuously lie to you and that you will believe that their lies are the truth. Now, this is the thing. It's unfortunate. A wonderful people who will keep giving you chances.
Right.
And instead of ensuring that you also provide for them the things that they entrusted you to do for them, all you do is you continuously lie to them. Because if the truth was being told, then all these wars all these problems we keep hearing about, we'd be telling stories of how they're reducing, but we're talking about how they're increasing. So even if you're looking for the truth, where do you think the truth is? In the words or in the reality that you're facing?
Right.
The truth is in the reality that you're living.
And you coach it in a lie and you coach it in hope.
Yes.
And especially that thing of selling hope.
That it will get better.
And you can clearly see, if you can clearly see that you don't have what you are saying that you'd be able to have by now, and you're saying you're going to even get more tomorrow. You cannot see where you're going to get the more tomorrow, but today you know you don't have what you ought to have had today, but you're selling the hope that tomorrow we will get infinitely more. What's the difference between that kind of person or that kind of institution to Pastor Mackenzie?
The cult, it's not selling hope.
You're talking about differences. Can we start with what are the similarities?
Selling hope.
Yes.
False hope.
And the outcome.
Knowing full well what you're telling people is basically, it's the way you keep saying, City, come for your miracle tomorrow at 11.
Surely.
And send a deposit in advance.
Yes. Now, so when I don't get my miracle, do I get a refund?
You know very well there's no miracle you're going to perform.
Yes.
Right? And you're telling someone, come tomorrow, we are going to be here for 3 days. Blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what you see from a government that tells you that we are going to get better at revenue collection. That in 4 years' time, our revenue collection is actually going to be 4 trillion shillings.
You know that revenue collection?
4 trillion shillings.
In 4 years.
You still have 3 months, you've not been able to collect 1.1.
Basically, what they're saying is that in 2027, the budget we'll be presenting to Parliament will be a 7 trillion shilling budget.
Yeah.
Okay?
And because
indicators
indicators are robust, all people who are eating and making food, all people who are talking on the phone communications, all people doing retail industry service, you people are the ones who are going to make sure that the government can now spend this 7 trillion.
You know where we get money from?
Same things we're seeing today.
Through our taxes. And for the tax collection or the end product of that collection to be higher, there needs to be an increased economic activity.
Exactly.
That produces it.
Where is the plan for increased industry? Where is the plan for manufacturing? Where are these indicators that can only fuel that kind of data and information? Where are they? Are there plans for those things to come out?
And you can see the biggest expenditure in the budget is a recurrent. And the biggest expenditure in the recurrent budget is what?
Salary.
Debt repayment.
Yes.
Sorry, I was going to say salary.
Followed by
So when you see a president and his administration saying that our tax revenues we are projecting we are going to be raising 4 trillion shillings in 2027 and we are on course. He's basically saying I can start borrowing now. The repayments will be due by 2027, 2028. We'll have a 7 trillion shilling budget. We'll be able to, because our revenues, 4 trillion, will be able to cover the debt repayment.
Will it really?
It's basically saying I want to borrow today because in 3 years' time, I'll be able to pay. When the payments are due, I'll be able. This is a couched way of saying I am going to start incurring debt. The whole story here of, we are not going to borrow like those other guys. No. We are not going to... Absolute BS. 4 trillion shilling projected revenue in 4 years' time is what are we going to do with the 4 trillion shillings? We are not going to do a 60-40 inverted pyramid in 60% of that 4 trillion shillings that we collect is going to development and only 40 trillion shillings will go into... No. We are going to maintain 60-40, 60%, no, 70-30. 70% of this will be going towards recurrent expenditure, a majority of which will be debt. 30% will be going towards development. So I'm going to borrow. And that's what he has said.
Yes, and recurrent expenditure, unfortunately, doesn't spur development.
It doesn't.
Yes, and development is what spurs the sort of economy that revenue can be derived from. So, will we ever get out of this situation? Does it seem likely?
Nope.
It does not seem likely.
All indicators are this is where we are headed. And our people who have been elected by the people across the constituencies, 290 of them, plus others who've been elected again in the counties, 47 of them, plus others who've been nominated, 12 of them. All 350 are in parliament and they'll sit there and say, stamp their feet and pass that budget.
And they have passed it. They've passed it.
Twende weekend, Mazi.
Tungoja Monday.
Monday is Labor Day, but we'll be back here.
Laboring.
Like the laborers that we are.
in our designated salt mines.
Have a lovely weekend, people. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you very